Chapter 470. In the 8th region, countless people looked up in terror at the sky. Under the massive blood-red star, Zhao Fu stood in the air, and the 6 chains on his arms hung down. They were connected to the 6 shocking demon images, and his aura was so terrifying that it seemed to shake the heavens and earth. Everyone was deeply immersed in fear, unable to extricate themselves. Some of the more timid people had already collapsed to the ground in fright and lost control of their bowels. The ocean of bones had killed 70 million or so players, and the ground was covered with corpses and bones. Now there were only about 100 million players left, and it was a massive ocean of players. Su Yen yelled, "We have so many people while they only have 6. We also have other types of buffs, so don't be afraid. Charge. As long as we kill Qin's legatee, everyone will be greatly rewarded." The leaders of the other factions also yelled. Now was not the time to be afraid, and their only option was to defeat Qin's legatee. Hearing their words, countless people agreed. They still had about 100 million players, and including Qin's legatee, there were only 7 of them. With so many people, they would be able to overwhelm Qin's legatee to death. Suppressing their fear, countless people roared as they charged towards the 6 paths demon images. The massive ocean of players gave off an aura that could topple mountains and overturn seas as they charged towards the 6 paths demon images. Zhao Fu stood in the air, and because of the descent of the Chaos Imperial Star, Zhao Fu's eyes were like a pair of rubies that gave off a bright blood-red light. His eyes were incredibly cold, and they seemed to be filled with killing intent. Facing the ocean of players, the Azura demon image at the center stepped out, causing the ground to tremble. The Azura demon image gripped its great spear and vigorously swung it. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the great spear seemed to tear through space, bringing with it a massive storm. Within 10,000 meters, whether it was people or rocks, everything was crushed by the power, and those outside 10,000 meters were sent flying like sand. This massive storm caused the ocean of players to pause, and its terrifying might instantly cleared out a large portion of the ocean of players, resulting in countless deaths and injuries. The Buddhist sect, Confucian school, and Vatican all used their full strength, wanting to help the others. Their bodies gave off different auras and entered the abnormal signs in the sky. The book that was emitting a green glow became even brighter, and the sage's voice became even louder, giving off a feeling of righteousness. The Buddha light that the Buddha gave off became even more intense, and the sonorous chanting of scriptures sounded as if it wanted to expel all evil and purify the world. It was an angel. It spread its pure white wings and emitted a blinding white light. Everyone felt an emptiness in their hearts as boundless light enveloped them, resisting the invasion of evil. The combined strength of the 3 factions was somewhat effective, and everyone felt their fear lessen. They were no longer as afraid of the 6 paths demon images, and they rushed over even more vigorously. Clang! A cruel smile appeared on the human demon image's face as it drew the blood-red sword at its waist. It gripped the sword with both hands and raised it high into the air. A massive amount of power flowed into it, causing it to give off a brilliant blood-red light. Boom! The sword slashed out, seeming to split the heavens and earth. A massive blood-red sword light flooded forwards like a massive river, leaving no survivors in its wake. A 100,000-meter long and hundreds of meters deep sword gash appeared on the ground. Because the human demon image's main targets were the 3 factions, not a single person from the Buddhist sect, Confucian school, or Vatican was left alive. Not even a corpse was left behind. Boom! Another massive explosion sounded out as the animal demon image slammed its fist against the ground, causing the ground to crack. A formless energy blade that was tens of thousands of meters long slashed out, causing countless people's bodies to explode and turn into a bloody mist. The Hell Demon image also attacked and evilly laughed as it held its pitchfork and pointed at the ocean of players. A large amount of black fog rose up and flooded towards the ocean of players, covering hundreds of thousands of people in just an instant. Those within the black fog cried out, and after the black fog passed, they were left with desiccated corpses. The hungry ghost path demon image coldly laughed as it continuously swung the massive bone cleaver in its hand. Grayish-white sword lights slashed out, cleaving players in half. Blood and organs covered the ground, creating a gory scene. In the end, the heaven demon image also attacked. Its expression was cold as it stabbed its halberd towards the sky, resulting in a massive explosion. Swish, 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 the sound of the air being torn could be heard as countless transparent spears descended from the sky like a torrential downpour, nailing people to the ground. In just a few minutes, the Six Paths demon images had killed millions of people. It could be seen just how terrifying they were. Even the boundless ocean of players came to a halt. No one foolishly rushed up to throw away their lives, because even now, none of them had come within 1,000 meters of the Six Paths demon images. Su Yen and the other faction leaders' expressions were incredibly unsightly. Even with so many people, they could not even get close to the Six Paths demon images and could not deal any damage to them at all. This was a battle on a completely different level. Soon, they changed their plans and did not rush up anymore. Instead, they used ranged attacks, and they ordered people to take out bows and arrows to attack the Six Paths demon images. Countless arrows tore through the air and gave off a sharp aura as they shot towards the Six Paths demon images. The rain of arrows was like toothpicks in front of the 1,000-meter-tall Six Paths demon images. Before the arrows could even get close, they were blocked by a formless energy 100 meters away, making it impossible for them to hit the Six Paths demon images. Su Yen hardened his heart and ordered the 200,000 or so archers to take out the last arrow with holy light crystals attached to it and shoot it towards the Six Paths demon images. Holy light crystals dealt great damage to demons and undead, but they were quite expensive. Even with the support of the Northern Side's factions, they could only afford this much. They had already shot out a few waves of holy light crystals, and they only had one wave left, hoping that it would be able to deal some damage to the Six Paths demon images. The arrows turned into rays of white light that gave off a large amount of holy light aura and formed a terrifying wave of holy light energy that shot towards the Six Paths demon images. Seeing the countless rays of white light shooting towards it, the Azura demon image revealed an expression of disgust and raised its great spear before stabbing out. Boom! Another massive explosion sounded out, and the air seemed to explode as a formless energy stabbed out, destroying the countless rays of white light. Moreover, the formless energy did not weaken at all and continued to fall into the hands of the 200,000 or so archers. Bang! An explosion sounded out, causing the ground to tremble and dust to fly into the air, blocking everyone's vision. After the dust settled, a 10,000-meter wide and 100-meter deep crater could be seen in the ground. The crater was filled with corpses and 80% of the 200,000 or so archers had died. Chapter 471. Countless people looked quite bitter as they looked at Su Yen, waiting to see how he would deal with this situation. However, there was nothing Su Yen could do, as he had used up all of his trump cards. Even though he had destroyed the terrifying undead disaster, he had never thought that Qin would have an even more terrifying trump card. Seeing that Su Yen couldn't do anything, the others started to feel quite worried. They watched as the Six Paths demon images slaughtered people, and if this continued, they would be killed by the Six Paths demon images sooner or later. Rather than being completely annihilated, it was better to choose to escape. The number of people who could survive was better than wasting all of their strength here. If they died, their forces would also fall into a state of emptiness, which would be extremely dangerous. After one person said that they should run, everyone else also said that they should run. In the end, all of the factions chose to run, as they didn't want to waste all of their strength here. This time, they were doomed to fail. The massive ocean of people gradually collapsed, and countless people ran back in fear. In just a short period of time, the Six Paths demon images had killed tens of millions of people. If they didn't run now, they would all die here. Seeing this, Su Yen sighed, or they had failed again. However, being able to destroy the undead disaster was already quite good. Now, Su Yen could only give the order for everyone to retreat, and they would think about how to deal with the Six Paths demon images later. The ordinary people received the order and started to quickly run. The massive ocean of people seemed to be flowing backwards, and countless people were retreating. However, at that moment, a hoarse and cold voice sounded out in the sky. "I said it before. I want everyone in the heaven-awakened world to die." Standing in the sky, Zhao Fu coldly looked at the countless people running away. He once again slowly raised his hand, and the 6 chains on his arm straightened, causing the Six Paths demon images to stop moving. They obeyed Zhao Fu's order, and they also raised one of their hands and spread out their fingers towards the sky. At that moment, the heavens and earth seemed to fall silent, and not a single sound could be heard. It wasn't just space. Even time seemed to stop and everything seemed to freeze. 6 paths of reincarnation. Open. A loud cry sounded out, and it was as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. Everyone in the heaven-awakened world felt an intense pain in their ears, and they felt an immense sense of danger. Boom! A massive shock wave rippled out from the 8th region, sweeping through the entire heaven-awakened world. Countless trees were uprooted, and boulders were blown into the sky. Everyone felt this terrifying power, and whether it was their bodies or souls, they froze, feeling as if they had fallen into an abyss. What happened in the north? Countless people thought in horror. He turned back to the 8th region and saw that the 8th region had become a flatland. Whether it was the mountains, the peaks, or even the trees, they had all disappeared. At the center of the shockwave, the ground had completely collapsed, and lava rose up from the ground, covering the surrounding 10,000 kilometers. The blood-red star in the sky was like a blood-red sun, giving off a boundless light. The 6 paths demon images stood in the air, giving off a heaven-toppling aura flame, and they raised one hand towards the sky. As for Su Yan's group of people, they were all crushed by the shockwaves, leaving nothing behind. The Qin Exterminating Alliance had been completely annihilated, and not a single person was left alive. However, the heaven-awakened world's crisis had only just begun. A gash appeared on the 6 paths demon image's hand, and a ball of black blood slowly floated out and rose into the sky. It turned into a black blood-red mist and started to spin, and soon, 6 massive vortexes appeared in the sky. A boundless chilling intent from the underworld instantly covered the entire heaven-awakened world, causing all creatures to feel a chill as if a calamity was about to descend. The 6 vortexes gradually became larger, and an eerie and terrifying aura spread throughout the heaven-awakened world. Countless beasts were startled and ran in all directions, but none of them felt safe. However, in their terror, they still madly ran. Countless people looked at the 6 vortexes, their faces pale. They understood that a calamity was about to descend, and not only would billions of creatures die, but the entire heaven-awakened world would also be destroyed. If we had known things would turn out like this, we would have risked our lives to stop the northern side from attacking Qin. Now, Qin is about to open the 6 paths of reincarnation and allow countless ghosts to invade the heaven-awakened world. When that time comes, the entire heaven-awakened world will be destroyed. One of the ancient clan's elders cried out in grief. The ancient clan's elders' expressions were quite unsightly. They had thought that Qin would definitely lose this time, and because of everything that had happened before, they did not want to get involved. However, they had never thought that Qin, who had nowhere else to go, would have such terrifying methods to open the 6 paths of reincarnation and destroy the heaven-awakened world. The square-faced middle-aged official furiously roared, "What can we do to stop all of this? Is Qin's legatee crazy? He's even willing to do something so crazy that he wants everyone in the world to die." Hearing his words, everyone fell silent. Now that things have come to this, what can we do to stop it? Could it be that we still have to negotiate? They had just reached an agreement, but because of the northern side's opening, they all betrayed Qin and tried to destroy Qin. How could Qin's legatee reconcile with them? Within Flower Moon, a well-behaved woman patted her chest as she said, "Luckily we didn't continue to oppose Qin, or else we would have died a horrible death." Another classical woman sighed. So what? The heaven-awakened world is facing destruction, which is not good for us at all. All of our businesses in the heaven-awakened world might be destroyed as well. A young girl with a baby voice said in agreement, "It's most likely that Qin's legatee was angered to the point of exploding and tried to reconcile with the countless factions. However, those factions were merciless and wanted to destroy Qin. Now, Emperor Qin hates everyone in the world, which is why he opened the 6 paths of reincarnation. We're doomed this time." The other women sighed and nodded before discussing how to deal with this disaster. The countless factions outside the heaven-awakened world had never thought that instead of hearing news of Qin being destroyed, they would be met with a disaster of destruction. They had been waiting to watch a good show, but now their hearts sank. The 6 vortexes in the sky became larger and larger, and they covered hundreds of thousands of kilometers. The terrifying might they gave off caused the air to seem to freeze, and it was as if countless evil ghosts were attacking. Chapter 472. Roar, roar, roar. On the other side of the crack, the countless evil ghosts sensed the aura of living beings on this side and gave off deafening roars. Even though the crack was quite long, it was also quite thin, so the countless evil ghosts were unable to break through it and descend into the heaven-awakened world. However, when everyone in the heaven-awakened world heard the ferocious roars, they felt their scalps go numb and their hairs stand on end as they felt an immense sense of danger. The entire sky was like a thin screen, and countless ghosts were on the other side, baring their fangs and claws. They looked incredibly ferocious, wanting to break through this thin screen and slaughter all living beings. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? A great calamity was about to descend, and countless people started to panic. They were at a loss as to what to do. Countless evil ghosts were about to descend, and they didn't have any confidence in being able to defend against them. Once the 6 paths of reincarnation were opened, countless evil ghosts would flood in, and their might wouldn't be any weaker than the undead disaster. In fact, they would be hundreds of times more powerful than the undead disaster. In terms of scale, there would be far more ghosts than the ocean of bones, and in terms of battle power, Qin's skeletons had evolved step by step, so they wouldn't be much stronger than players. However, the ghosts in the 6 paths of reincarnation were different. There were countless types of ghosts, and they existed for different amounts of time. Those that existed for a short period of time were quite weak, but the longer they existed, the more monstrous they would be. There were Stage 1 to Stage 9 ghosts, and even Stage 9 ghosts and above could appear. Right now, most people in the heaven-awakened world had less than Stage 1 ghosts, so how could they defend against them? They would be completely slaughtered. It wasn't just China's factions that were at a loss. All of the factions in the world were at a loss. It was as if being slaughtered was their fate. The heaven-awakened world fell into chaos. Right now, countless people's hearts were filled with hatred, unwillingness, anger, and regret. If they had known that things would turn out like this, none of them would have been willing to betray Qin. After all, they would have been in a much better situation. However, it was too late to regret now. Right now, the crack was still quite thin, and even though there were countless ghostly qi flowing out, there was not a single ghost to be seen. Zhao Fu was expressionless as he raised his hand and grabbed at the air. The 6 paths demon images also grabbed at the air, and a massive power caused the entire sky to tremble. Bang! The sound of glass shattering rang out, and a thin crack suddenly extended into countless cracks before shattering like a mirror. A large black hole appeared in the sky. The other 5 rifts also shattered, and 6 enormous holes that were 10,000 kilometers wide appeared in the sky, giving off boundless ghostly chi. By now, the 6 paths of reincarnation had been completely opened, and there were no obstructions at all. Countless ghosts laughed evilly as they flooded into the heaven-awakened world. The heaven ghosts flooded into the heaven, and the atmosphere, and the heaven, and the heaven, and the world, and the heaven world. Suddenly, a massive dragon's roar sounded out, shaking the heavens. Everyone in the heaven-awakened world heard this dragon's roar. At the same time, 6 1,000-meter-long spears of light giving off a thunderous aura shot out from the sky. In just an instant, the 6 spears of light pierced through the hearts of the 6 paths demon images. The 6 paths demon images howled as they turned into black aura and dissipated. And spirits and ghosts and boom! An unbearable might descended, and the sky seemed to split apart. Countless rays of azure light shot out, and a massive figure gradually appeared. This was an incredibly large divine dragon, and its body covered the entire sky. It was covered with azure jade-like scales, and it had 4 steel-like dragon claws. It had a pair of jade-like azure dragon horns, and a majestic and domineering head stretched out from the clouds as it looked at Zhao Fu. Under this terrifying might, Zhao Fu's body froze. This divine dragon's power surpassed anything Zhao Fu knew, and it was unimaginably powerful. Within his body, whether it was his nation armament or clan armament, they were all suppressed by a formless energy, unable to resist at all. Zhao Fu felt as if his body had sunk into an icy lake, and his entire body was icy cold. He felt incredibly shocked as he looked at the divine dragon in front of him. "Emperor, you've gone too far," the azure divine dragon said in an ancient voice as it looked at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu continuously searched for information about demon gods in his mind, and he finally found out what kind of existence this divine dragon was. "They wanted to destroy me, Qin, so I wanted them all to die. What's wrong with that?" Zhao Fu said with a trace of killing intent as he looked at the divine dragon. The divine dragon once again said, "If you killed them all, I wouldn't care, but if you opened the 6 paths of reincarnation and allowed countless ghosts to invade the heaven-awakened world, causing the entire heaven-awakened world to face destruction, I have to care." Zhao Fu did not say anything else. He understood that he had gone too far this time. More importantly, Zhao Fu could not defeat the divine dragon at all, and a casual attack from the divine dragon had been able to kill Zhao Fu's most powerful 6 paths demon images and suppress his nation armament and clan armament. It could be seen just how powerful and terrifying this divine dragon was. In front of it, Zhao Fu was simply too weak and could not resist at all. However, the 6 paths demon images were only clones that Zhao Fu had summoned, and they were much weaker than the real 6 paths demon images. If it was the real 6 paths demon images, they definitely would not have been killed so easily. However, with Zhao Fu's current strength, he could not summon the 6 paths demon images at all. Even if he could summon them, he would not be able to control them at all, and it was possible that he would suffer a backlash. Right now, Zhao Fu was simply too weak. However, even though this was the case, his original plan had been forcefully disrupted. He had spent so much money and resources, but he had not been able to use them at all, so Zhao Fu felt quite unwilling. Of course, Zhao Fu knew that the divine dragon definitely would not kill him, so he said, "I did go too far this time, but if I don't destroy them, they will gather again to destroy me, Qin. Lord Guardian, do you want me, Qin, to die?" The divine dragon realized this and fell silent for a moment before saying, "If you don't destroy the heaven-awakened world again, I can guarantee that you, Qin, will not be destroyed for 100 years. After 100 years, Qin will have the power to face all dangers." Chapter 473. Alright, Lord Guardian, I can promise you that. I hope you can take care of me in the future. A smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face, and his attitude completely changed. Being able to obtain the Azure Dragon's powerful protection made Zhao Fu feel quite happy. Qin would not be in any danger within 100 years, and even if they gathered hundreds of millions of people, Zhao Fu would not have to worry. Now that Zhao Fu knew the Azure Dragon's identity, he understood how powerful it was. It could use the world's energy, and in front of it, no one could resist at all. The Azure Dragon nodded, and its massive body twisted as it disappeared into the sky. Zhao Fu put away the Chaos Imperial Star, and the blood-red light faded as the world returned to normal. Countless people looked quite confused, not understanding what had happened. Wasn't the heaven-awakened world about to be destroyed just as the 6 paths of reincarnation had opened? Why did it suddenly disappear? Even though they did not know what had happened, they knew that the calamity had stopped. Countless people couldn't help but loudly laugh. They had been given a new lease on life, and they felt incredibly fortunate. The scene of countless ghosts flooding into the heaven-awakened world was simply too terrifying. The countless factions did not understand what had happened. The 6 paths of reincarnation had disappeared, and they guessed that it had something to do with that dragon's roar. However, now that the 6 paths of reincarnation had disappeared, the heaven-awakened world had avoided a calamity. This was something worth celebrating. The entire world was filled with joy and laughter, and many people danced and sang to express their joy and excitement. Now that this matter had concluded, the world returned to normal. It had been nearly 2 months since the undead disaster had begun, and the 6 paths of reincarnation had begun. The 13 regions had been severely affected, and almost all creatures had disappeared. During this time, more than 100 million creatures had died, and more than 200 million players had died. The northern part of Huaxia fell into a state of great loss. Every region became sparsely populated, no longer as bustling as before, and became somewhat deserted. After this incident, it was impossible to make up for this loss in numbers in a short period of time, and countless factions were on the verge of collapse. Most of their members had died, and all sorts of resources had been lost. This caused the northern side's players' strength to fall back by a few months. Out of China's 4 cardinal directions, the northern side was the weakest, and if it fell back, it would continue to fall behind. In the future, the northern side would be weaker than the other regions. But who could he blame? They were the ones who stirred up trouble and had to bear the terrible consequences in the end. The main reason for this incident was that the leaders of the 10 or so factions had to be replaced. This was because the factions had suffered such great losses, so someone had to take responsibility, or else everyone would resist. As for Su Yan, he disappeared after this incident. No one knew where he went. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. The ordinary people's losses were even worse. After dying, their cultivation, equipment, and skills would all disappear, leaving them with nothing. Now they were filled with regret. After fighting for so long, they had returned to their starting point. Basically, no one dared to mention Qin anymore. Whenever they talked about this topic, they would automatically avoid talking about it. It could be seen how powerful Qin's deterrence was at this time. Although the 6 paths of reincarnation were closed this time, who knew if Prince Qin would go crazy and open it again? No one could be sure. Because of the opening of the northern side's passageway, the Qin writs and Holy Daughter writs had also stopped. Many people thought that Qin would be destroyed, and if Qin had been destroyed, how could they be stupid enough to join Qin? Before, they had been oppressed and threatened by Qin, which was why they had chosen to accept the Qin writs and Holy Daughter writ. If Qin had been destroyed, they would have been overjoyed. As such, the Qin writs and Holy Daughter writs had been stopped. It was a pity that they had lost miserably, and they had even dragged the entire heaven-awakened world into danger. If it wasn't for the 6 paths of reincarnation being stopped, they would not even know how they had died. Now they knew how powerful Qin was, so they wanted to accept the Qin writs and Holy Daughter writs and receive Qin's protection so that they would no longer be threatened or attacked by Qin. However, even if they wanted to do this, they no longer had the chance. Qin had already sent out news that all Qin writs and Holy Daughter writs had been stopped. This caused countless factions to feel panic, as this meant that Qin would no longer accept anyone's surrender. Everyone would be his enemy, and the only outcome would be destruction. Countless factions' representatives regretfully and fearfully went to the Ying family, wanting to discuss things with Qin. However, the Ying family rejected all of them. All of the world's large factions started to investigate just what had happened. The 6 paths of reincarnation had definitely been stopped, and what was that dragon's roar? How was Prince Qin? These were all things that needed to be investigated. After all, they had to know about this, as they were worried that Prince Qin would do something even more terrifying. However, no matter how much they investigated, they could not find anything. The world's large factions could only send their representatives to express their goodwill. Even the Chinese government lowered their heads and sent people over. The ancient clans also wanted to ask about Prince Qin, and Flower Moon wanted to discuss working with Qin. However, they were all rejected. No matter who went, the Ying family still said the same thing. No matter who it is, we won't see them. This resolute attitude caused the countless factions to dejectedly return. At the same time, they felt even more curious as to what had happened and why Qin was so calm. Back in the Heaven Awakened world, Zhao Fu was lying on a bamboo chair next to a small stream, holding a fishing rod as he leisurely fished. Because the weather had become cold, he could no longer sit on the ground, and there was a blanket on the bamboo chair. Ever since the matter had concluded, Zhao Fu had started to recover. After a few days of recuperation, Zhao Fu had gradually recovered from his skeletal appearance. His face now had some color, and he had gained some flesh on his body. However, it would take a long time for him to fully recover. After all, Zhao Fu had used too much essence blood, and he could not recover it in a short period of time. Zhao, try this, it's so sweet. A flower spirit with a small rose on her head said happily as she flew over to Zhao Fu while hugging a grape-like fruit. She was Rose, one of the flower spirits that Zhao Fu had taken in a long time ago. The other 2 flower spirits were sitting on Zhao Fu's body and happily eating fruits. Chapter 474. This little girl Asani, no matter who she was with, had a good relationship with. She was liked by many people and was very popular. Facing the fruit that Rose handed over, Zhao Fu opened his mouth and ate it. It was indeed quite sweet and tasty, but he did not know what kind of fruit it was. Seeing that Zhao Fu had eaten the fruit, Rose sat back on Zhao Fu's body and started to play with the other 2 flower spirits. They normally stayed in the medicine garden because they had the ability to reduce the time it took for plants to grow. This was especially so under Qin's nurturing, and their strength had reached stage 2. Their abilities were even more powerful, so they were sent to the medicine garden to speed up the growth of various spirit medicines. Because Zhao Fu was busy, he rarely saw them. This time, the 3 flower spirits came to find Zhao Fu. After all, during winter, countless flowers would no longer bloom. Even if they could speed up their growth, they would not be able to bloom because those flowers did not bloom in winter. The flowers no longer bloomed, and Qin City no longer had flowers everywhere. As such, the 3 flower spirits came to find Zhao Fu and wanted to see if Zhao Fu could resolve this issue so that Qin City could continue to be filled with flowers. After all, they loved this sort of Qin City. Zhao Fu thought about it and decided that this matter was quite easy to resolve. He just had to plant some flowers that would bloom in winter, such as plum trees, winter cherry trees, camellias, and so on. Even though there weren't many flowers that bloomed in the winter, there were still a few. The flowers that bloomed in the winter were different from the ones that bloomed at other times. They gave off a cold aura which Zhao Fu liked. As such, Zhao Fu sent people to plant a few types of flowers in Qin City to resolve this issue. After this matter was resolved, the 3 flower spirits were naturally quite happy and stayed by Zhao Fu's side. They did not leave and continued to accompany Zhao Fu as he fished. By now, everything in Qin City had returned to normal, and the various organizations started to operate. First, the population had reached 1 million. Qin City now had 632 villages, and just based on the number of people that spawned in a single day, it had reached 10,000. The 4 system main cities spawned around 2,000 or so people every day. With these villages, after 2 months, the population would definitely be quite high. With 1 million residents, Zhao Fu expanded the army to 400,000. 200,000 of them were Stage 1 soldiers, and the remaining 200,000 had decent cultivations because they had all used Stage 1 blood god pills. The undead army had destroyed the 8th region and slaughtered the 4 system main cities, providing Qin City with 400,000 Stage 1 corpses. They had already used 200,000 of those corpses, and there were 200,000 left to provide Qin City with a large number of high cultivation soldiers. This time, Qin City had also obtained massive benefit. What made Zhao Fu the happiest was that the 4 system main cities had allowed Qin City to have 4 city lords, greatly increasing their high-end battle strength. Moreover, there were also countless pieces of equipment, medicinal pills, and many resources. Putting aside what they had obtained from the system main cities, Qin City would not be able to sell off all of the equipment from the 15 million players in a short period of time because there were simply too many of them. What was even more pitiful was the equipment that the 170 million players had. Each piece of equipment was worth 5 gold coins, which was worth 850 million gold coins. This was a terrifying figure, and it was hundreds of times more than Qin City's current wealth. However, at that time, there had been no time for him to pick up the equipment. All of the equipment, including the corpses, had been turned into nothingness by the shockwaves from the 6 paths of reincarnation. This was a great pity, and after calming down, Zhao Fu felt quite pained. In terms of military affairs, Zhao Fu ordered the 400,000 soldiers to split into 4 teams and start a carpet search from the north, south, east, and west, destroying all of the villages in the surrounding 10,000 kilometers. After taking control of the surrounding 10,000 kilometers, Zhao Fu had to consider taking down the Forest of Horrors. He had to speed up the process of restoring Qin City, as there was less and less time left. However, Zhao Fu still wanted to destroy Heavenstone City first, as this could only be done after his body recovered. Now that he had 4 city lords, there was no chance of failure for Zhao Fu's original plan to fail. Zhao Fu had been waiting for this day for a long time. In terms of business, Qin had opened up 92 regions, and all of the restaurants, merchant associations, and shops had reopened. Now, Zhao Fu was not worried about the northern side attacking him at all. After all, even if the northern side's factions weren't dead, they were crippled. How could they dare to attack Qin City? Now that Zhao Fu had given them a way out, they felt incredibly fortunate and did not dare to do anything. Now, Zhao Fu did not place the northern side's factions in his eyes at all. After dealing with things here, he would properly take care of them. At first, Zhao Fu had wanted to let them off, but they had repeatedly betrayed him and tried to destroy Qin City. Now, how could Zhao Fu spare them? With the Azure Dragon's protection, Zhao Fu was not afraid of them allying together. As such, he cancelled the Qin writs and Holy Daughter writs, viewing everyone as Qin City's enemy. He would use his power to conquer them, and he would not be merciful at all. That's right. Zhao Fu knew the Azure Dragon's name. It was called the Sky Desolation Azure Dragon. The Sky Desolation Azure Dragon was not a monster, which meant that it was not a Lord-class creature or a King-class creature but a guardian beast. Its duty was to protect a world, so it could use the world's power. It was incredibly powerful, and because it was a guardian beast, It had stopped Zhao Fu from opening the 6 paths of reincarnation, as that could destroy the heaven-awakened world. As the guardian beast of this world, the Sky Desolation Azure Dragon naturally knew everything, and Zhao Fu was someone it paid close attention to, so it knew everything about Zhao Fu. It knew that Zhao Fu had killed a god and had information about a demon god, and it knew that Zhao Fu had the heaven and earth refining formation. It also knew some things that even Zhao Fu did not know about. Moreover, there was not just one guardian beast in this world. There were 3 others, for a total of 4 guardian beasts. Even though the Sky Desolation Azure Dragon was an azure dragon, that did not mean that the other guardian beasts were the white tiger, the black tortoise, and the vermilion bird. Back at the Great Qin Town's construction, the 4 stone roads had already been constructed, and the Great Qin City had been expanded to accommodate even more residents. At the same time, they were constructing commercial streets to promote the city's economic development. After all, there were more and more people, and they could not allow the city to be centralized. In the end, they started to produce large amounts of winter crop. Moreover, the underground city had been built for nothing. Chapter 475. Your Majesty, it's time for you to heal. An elf girl who looked 16 or 17 years old walked over to Zhao Fu with a slight blush on her face and bowed before saying in a small voice. She was Asani. Before, Asani's healing skills were already at the advanced level, and after such a long time, her healing skills had surpassed the pinnacle level and were at the Grandmaster level. She had great effects on healing and recovery. In Qin, only she had reached the Grandmaster level, and everyone else had only just reached the pinnacle level. At the same time, her grade was SSS grade. Qin didn't lack SSS grade corpses, as all of the city lords and the 3 great generals had SSS grade corpses. There were 16 corpses in total in the 4 system main cities, and Qin had obtained a large number of SSS grade medicinal pills during the disaster festival. Now that there were so many SSS grade corpses, Qin didn't lack SSS grade orbs. The reason Zhao Fu gave Asani a grade orb was because her performance in Qin had been quite good. Zhao Fu felt that he needed a top-tier healer in order to deal with some troublesome matters in the future. It wasn't just Asani. There were also 3 elders who had appeared in Qin: the blacksmith Wang Dao, the apothecary Zhang Baishu, and the tailor He Yun. In actuality, these were all support professions, but their effects were not inferior to main professions. This was because they embodied powerful support functions. Blacksmiths could forge higher-grade equipment, apothecaries could refine higher-grade medicinal pills, and tailors could create higher-grade defensive equipment. These 3 things were absolutely necessary in life, and they were incredibly useful. As such, they required people with high grades. After all, having high grades didn't just mean one's cultivation speed, but also their comprehension. Apart from them, Zhao Fu also gave Road a reward. Most of Great Qin's legendary grade equipment had been forged by him, and he had contributed greatly to this, so he deserved this reward. Zhao Fu also gave the remaining grade orbs to other professions, but most of them were given to generals and civil officials. Li Si was still SS grade, not because Zhao Fu was unwilling to give him a grade orb, but because he was a historical figure. Zhao Fu felt that it was better to give him a grade orb. However, because Li Si was a civil official and did not need to fight, and the corpses of the historical generals were urgently needed by the other generals, Li Si had dragged it out until now. However, this was not a big deal. If the heaven-awakened world devoured the real world, Li Si's fate seal would be undone, and his grade would automatically increase. Of course, Zhao Fu could have used the corpses of historical generals to help him level up. Following this, Zhao Fu received Asani's treatment. Her hands gave off a green light that was filled with the aura of life, and it covered Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu's injured body quickly recovered. In actuality, Zhao Fu still had the royal wood sword, which could also heal him. However, even though the royal wood sword could provide a large amount of life force, it could not heal him, so Zhao Fu still had to eat healing pills and receive Asani's treatment. The treatment lasted for half an hour, and Asani put away the green light in her hands and looked at Zhao Fu with concern as she asked, "Your Majesty, how do you feel? How do you feel?" Zhao Fu carefully sensed his body and found that it was much better, so he smiled and nodded. "Is that so? That's great." Seeing that she had helped Zhao Fu, Asani happily smiled. It was very meaningful for her to be able to help others, especially Zhao Fu, the future ruler of Qin. After all, people like them had to rely on Zhao Fu in order to stay in Qin and have their current lives. Seeing her like this, Zhao Fu couldn't help but smile as he said, "All right, if you have anything to do, you can go back first." Asani hurriedly shook her head, indicating that there was nothing to do. Asani hurriedly shook her head, indicating that there was nothing to do. Asani! 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 Seeing that Asani was done, the three flower spirits happily flew over and started to play with her. Seeing how happy they were, Zhao Fu felt quite happy, and he retracted his gaze and went back to cultivating. Time gradually passed, and Zhao Fu's body became better and better. On the 6th day, Zhao Fu's body had mostly recovered. Now, it was time to carry out his original plan, which was to destroy Heavenstone City. Zhao Fu asked his generals to gather the soldiers while he went to find Guobinglin and asked for the latest information on Heavenstone City. Since he had decided to attack it, he needed to know what had happened and what had changed recently. After looking through the report, Zhao Fu found that Heavenstone City hadn't changed much, and it was more or less the same as before. The biggest factor in this battle was most likely the attitude of the three other system main cities. Right now, the attitude of the three system main cities was still unclear, and Zhao Fu couldn't tell if they would help Heavenstone City or not. As such, he had to make some preparations. However, Zhao Fu now had 5 city lords under his command, so there shouldn't be any problems. The main problem was the 100,000 Stage 1 soldiers. Zhao Fu thought about it and decided to set up an isolation barrier. If they wanted to help Heavenstone City, he would immediately activate the isolation barrier to stop them from coming. Each system main city was tens of thousands of kilometers away from each other, so even if they sent their soldiers, it would take them at least a week to arrive. By then, Qin City would have long since conquered Heavenstone City. If they really dared to come, Zhao Fu would set up an ambush and take the opportunity to destroy the other 3 system main cities in one fell swoop, taking over all of East Green. Zhao Fu first gathered his generals to discuss and come up with a strategy before starting the plan to destroy Heavenstone City. Large numbers of Great Qin's soldiers orderly stepped into the teleportation channel, giving off an austere aura. It now seemed like a majestic nation. Zhao Fu put on his black cloak and went to the innermost part of East Green to look around. East Green was quite rocky and there weren't many trees. Because there were many creeks and the air was quite humid, the moss here was quite lush. By now, Zhao Fu had already used stealth and concealed all of his aura as he flew in the sky. Zhao Fu was currently searching for the boss of East Green's region. East Green's region creatures were an important part of his plan, as they were all quite big. For example, the Forest of Horror's 6-eyed flood dragon and Seeping River's fish monsters were 1,000 meters long, so they would be quite easy to find. Zhao Fu searched for a while in the innermost part of East Green, but he didn't find anything. Zhao Fu felt quite confused as he searched again, and he finally found something. The boss of East Green's region was a rock giant that was 1,000 meters tall. Its entire body was made of dark gray rocks, and its body was covered with green moss. Chapter 476. The rock giant rarely moved, and it spent most of its time in a deep sleep. Normally, it wouldn't wake up unless something big happened, which suited Zhao Fu's plan. Suddenly, Zhao Fu looked over and saw a 2-meter-tall tree next to the rock giant. Whether it was the tree's branches or leaves, they were all blood-red, and there were 9 fruits on the tree. These fruits were as big as fists and looked humanoid. They were purple and gave off a mysterious luster, and it was clear that they weren't low-grade spirit fruits. What's more, Zhao Fu happened to recognize this fruit. It was the fruit of life that Zhao Fu was looking for. The fruit of life was the main ingredient for refining the fate-changing pill. The fate-changing pill was a pill recipe that Zhao Fu had exchanged for during the disaster festival, and its effects were incredibly powerful. It was incredibly powerful, and it could raise anyone's grade below a grade by 1. With this pill and the heaven and earth refining formation, Qin would be able to nurture a large number of S-grade soldiers. When Zhao Fu saw this fruit, he couldn't help but feel quite happy. However, right now Zhao Fu couldn't touch the fruit tree. It was evident that it was incredibly important to the rock giant, and if Zhao Fu did anything, he would definitely wake it up. Qin had to obtain this fruit of life, so I'll leave it there for now. I'll come back and dig it up when the time comes. After making this decision, Zhao Fu turned into a ray of light and left the depths of East Green. Ever since that incident, Heavenstone City's defenses had been quite tight. Shi Jian knew that Zhao Fu would come to find him sooner or later, so he had made all sorts of defensive measures to prevent anything unexpected from happening. Shi Jian's biggest weakness was his son, Shi Wen. If he could capture Shi Wen, there would be nothing Shi Jian could do. Perhaps because Shi Jian realized this, he was afraid that others would attack Shi Wen. As such, Shi Wen spent most of his time within the city lord's residence, and he was protected by Lu Xing, one of the 2 remaining great generals of Heavenstone City. Without Shi Wen's destruction, Heavenstone City became much better. Many players came to Heavenstone City to develop, causing it to become much livelier and more prosperous. Even though Zhao Fu had been listed as a criminal by Heavenstone City, with Zhao Fu's strength, no one would be able to discover him. However, because he was a criminal, his stats would be weakened by 30%. Even so, Zhao Fu was still quite powerful. Zhao Fu hid his aura and activated Stealer, causing his body to become invisible. He first snuck into Heavenstone City before entering the city hall. After searching the city hall for a while, Zhao Fu found where Shi Wen was. Shi Jian never would have thought that Zhao Fu's growth would surpass his, nor would he have thought that Zhao Fu would dare to infiltrate his city hall. The city hall was at the center of a system main city, and ordinary people wouldn't dare to enter. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. Although Shi Wen had become a lot more sensible, and many soldiers had changed their impression of him, Shi Wen still had some problems. Even though it was daytime, within a luxurious room, Shi Wen was forcefully plucking at the bodies of 3 flirtatious female attendants, causing them to pant. Lu Xing, who was standing guard outside, had a strange expression on his face. Only when Zhao Fu saw Lu Xing did he discover where Shi Wen was. Lu Xing's strength was still at stage 3, but in front of Zhao Fu, it was nothing. After all, Zhao Fu's cultivation was only a step away from stage 3, and he had countless other powers supporting him. However, Zhao Fu still carefully took out a dagger and slowly approached Lu Xing. Because Zhao Fu was an assassin, it wasn't difficult for him to do this. Arg! The moans from within the room were incredibly loud, and this slightly distracted Lu Xing, allowing Zhao Fu to get within 5 meters of Lu Xing. At that moment, Zhao Fu's body pounced over like a cheetah. Only then did Lu Xing instinctively sense something, and he was given a big fright. However, it was too late. By now, Zhao Fu had arrived behind Lu Xing and covered Lu Xing's mouth with one hand while gripping the dagger with the other. He didn't hesitate at all as he slit Lu Xing's throat, ending his life. Before, with Zhao Fu's strength, he would have been able to put up a bitter fight against Lu Xing. However, things were different now, and Lu Xing was much weaker than before. Following this, Zhao Fu put Lu Xing's corpse into his spatial ring. Zhao Fu lightly opened the door to the room, and because the 4 people on the bed were in the middle of doing it, they didn't notice him. Young master, you're so amazing," a flirtatious female attendant under Sher Wen's body said as she panted with a red face. However, at that moment, 3 black sword lights shot out and pierced into the heads of the 3 female attendants, killing them on the spot. Sherwin was given a big fright, and he quickly turned around to find that a black-cloaked person had appeared in the room. "You are—" Sherwin wanted to loudly ask who this person was and why he had barged into his room. At the same time, he wanted to call someone in. Back then, because Sherwin had been drunk, he didn't know what Zhao Fu looked like, so he didn't realize that the person in front of him was the person that his father had told him to be careful of. However, before he could finish speaking, Zhao Fu's body flashed and appeared beside him, knocking him unconscious. Then, he grabbed the bedsheet and wrapped it around the naked man. Before, Zhao Fu had been able to use his invisibility to easily sneak into the city lord's residence without being discovered. However, now that Zhao Fu was carrying such a large group of people, it was impossible for him to leave so easily. As such, Zhao Fu didn't bother hiding anything. He grabbed Sherwin and rushed into the sky, flying out of the city lord's residence. This sudden turn of events gave everyone in the city lord's residence a big fright. Shi Jian immediately sensed this and rushed out of the room. At the same time, Shi Jian sensed that his son's aura had disappeared, and he looked at the person being held by the cloaked figure in the distance. He roared and exploded out with a powerful aura as he leapt up and rushed towards Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu was incredibly fast, and he was like a black ray of light as he shot out of the city lord's residence. Shi Jian was slightly behind, but he still chased after Zhao Fu with all his might. The 2 of them gradually closed in on each other, and Zhao Fu didn't pay any attention to Shi Jian, who was chasing after him. He only glanced at him before continuing onwards. "Give me back my son!" Seeing the familiar figure in front of him, Shi Jian's heart sank, and he once again exploded out with a powerful aura, causing his flying speed to increase by many times. However, Zhao Fu still didn't pay any attention to Shi Jian and continued onwards. Just as the distance between them became smaller and smaller, 2 people giving off powerful auras rushed out and stopped Shi Jian. Chapter 477. Sar was the city lord of a basic city, while Mengkuo was the city lord of a system main city. Their combined strength was enough to stall Shi Jian, which was why Zhao Fu wasn't worried about Shi Jian chasing after him. He had long since made preparations. Wang Jian, Wei Liao, and Bai Qi stayed near the 3 other system main cities to prevent them from interfering. If it wasn't for the fact that the other 3 system main cities wanted to interfere, Zhao Fu would have been able to lure Shi Jian out and kill him. After all, with Zhao Fu's help, Qin would have 6 city lords, and with 6 against 1, Shi Jian would definitely lose. However, this wasn't Zhao Fu's original plan. He could only obtain the fruit of life by himself. Zhao Fu continued to fly towards the depths of East Green. Shi Jian looked at the 2 people in front of him and felt quite startled. He could sense that one of them was a system main city's power, while the other was a basic city's power. With his own strength, it would be very difficult for him to escape from them. "Sirs, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business," Shi Jian said to Mengkuo and Sar with a cold expression. He still didn't know that Mengkuo and Sar were Zhao Fu's subordinates, and he thought that they were reinforcements that Zhao Fu had invited. He had no idea that Zhao Fu was so powerful. Of course, Mengkuo and Sar ignored Shi Jian's words and took out their weapons. "Humph!" Shi Jian coldly harumphed and took out a large saber, using his full strength. He had to catch up to Zhao Fu, or else his son would be in danger. He slashed out, sending out a massive saber light towards Mengkuo and Sar. Mengkuo and Sar also unleashed their city lord Seal's power to defend against Shi Jian's attack. Very quickly, the 3 of them started a massive battle in the sky, and the terrifying shock waves caused the clouds and clouds to howl, causing countless birds and beasts to flee. It was as if a massive disaster had descended. Meng Tian and Tian Tian didn't attack, instead focusing on defense. Their main task was to stall Shi Jian so that Zhao Fu could carry out his plan. Zhao Fu quickly went to the depths of the Forest of Horrors. Looking at the sleeping rock giant, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile, and took out a small incense stick. This incense stick was very short and looked like it could burn for 3 minutes. It had 5 colors and gave off a dreamlike fragrance. This was the dream incense, and it had a powerful effect that could cause the boss of a region to fall into a deep sleep. It was a pity that it could only fall into a deep sleep, and once it suffered immense pain, it would wake up. Otherwise, it would have been possible to kill this stone giant. Zhao Fu took out a match and lit the dreamlike incense. He held his breath because if Zhao Fu breathed in the dreamlike incense, he would also fall asleep. There wasn't much time left, so Zhao Fu quickly started to act. He first placed the dreamlike incense next to the rock giant. The rock giant was already asleep, and after breathing in the dreamlike incense, it fell into a deep sleep. Following this, Zhao Fu took out a sturdy iron cage and placed it next to the Tree of Life. He threw Shi into the cage and locked it up, then took out a few chains and tied them around the rock giant's body. This iron cage had been specially made by Zhao Fu, and it was incredibly sturdy. It contained some legendary grade materials, and it could withstand a full-strength attack from a city lord. Following this, Zhao Fu smiled. Of course, it was time to dig up the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life was a rare stage 6 spirit fruit, and it was even more difficult to find than ordinary stage 7 spirit fruit. It was incredibly precious, and Zhao Fu had never thought that he would find one here. As such, Zhao Fu was incredibly careful as he dug up the Tree of Life and put it into his king's ring. On the other side, Meng Tian and Zhao Fu followed their plan and stalled Shi Jian for a while before leaving. Of course, Shi Jian wouldn't chase after them, and he instead quickly ran in the direction that Zhao Fu had disappeared. By now, the dreamlike incense's scent had completely disappeared, and Zhao Fu went into stealth, hiding his aura. Zhao Fu had thought that after the dreamlike incense's scent disappeared, the rock giant would wake up because of the Tree of Life's disappearance. However, Zhao Fu discovered that he was wrong. The rock giant continued to fall into a deep sleep. It seemed that the dreamlike incense's effects weren't as simple as it seemed. Even after burning the dreamlike incense, it could still cause a creature to fall into a deep sleep. Without an external force, it was possible that the creature would never wake up. Zhao Fu had never thought that this would happen. If he had known that this would happen, he wouldn't have used up all of the dreamlike incense, and he could have used it 2 more times. However, it was too late now. Since the rock giant continued to fall into a deep sleep, Zhao Fu had nothing to fear. He drew the Sin Dragon sword and flew above the rock giant because Shi Jian had caught up. Shi Jian stopped and stood in the air, furiously looking at the scene in front of him. A black-cloaked figure giving off a powerful aura and holding a sword stood above the rock giant. Under the cloak, there was a pair of blood-red eyes that gave off a mocking gaze as he looked at Shi Jian. Next to the rock giant, Shi Jian's son was locked in an iron cage. The black-cloaked figure's goal was obvious. He wanted Shi Jian to fight the rock giant. In order to save his son, Shi Jian had to fight the rock giant. "Sir, you're too despicable." Shi Jian coldly looked at Zhao Fu. He knew that this day would come, but he had never thought that Zhao Fu would be so powerful. Just from his aura alone, Zhao Fu was no weaker than him, and he also had a nation armament and clan armament. "Despicable?" Zhao Fu coldly laughed as he said, "Could it be that only you can do evil, and I have to do good?" Hearing this, Shi Jian felt quite furious, but he suppressed it and said, "Heavenstone City was in the wrong before, but Heavenstone City paid a heavy price. Back then, you only lost 10 or so people, but Heavenstone City lost over 10,000 soldiers and countless residents. I believe that this matter ends here, and Heavenstone City will not make any trouble for you. Ha ha ha. Hearing Shi Jian's words, Zhao Fu loudly laughed as he said, You still don't understand, right? It was I, Qin City, who made trouble for you. Even though 10 or so people died, they were all Qin citizens. This enmity has been settled, and it's time to take revenge. After speaking, Zhao Fu raised the Sin Dragon sword and sent his power into it, preparing to forcefully awaken the sleeping rock giant. Wait! Seeing this, Shi Jian was greatly shocked and hurriedly called out. Zhao Fu stopped and looked at Shi Jian as he said, What else do you have to say? Shi Jian deeply breathed in and calmed himself before saying, I can give you some compensation to resolve this enmity. I'll do my best to satisfy you. Chapter 478. What do I want? Are you willing to give Heavenstone City to me? Zhao Fu coldly laughed when he heard Shi Jian say that he would satisfy all of his requests. Absolutely not. Shi Jian resolutely refused. How could he just give away a system main city like this? How could he face the soldiers who trusted him and the residents who respected him? Moreover, he had developed Heavenstone City for so long and he had worked so hard to establish it. How could he be willing to give it away so easily? Once he lost his system main city, he would only have stage 4 cultivation. If he didn't run into city lords, he wouldn't be in any danger. However, if he ran into a city lord, even if it was a city lord of a basic city, he wouldn't be able to defeat them. When that time came, the other party would be able to kill him however they wanted, and he wouldn't be able to resist at all. Zhao Fu knew that things would turn out like this, and seeing that Shi Jian still wanted to negotiate, Zhao Fu didn't say anything. Apart from the system main city, he didn't want anything else. As such, Zhao Fu sent his power into the Sin Dragon sword, causing it to give off a terrifying green light. There seemed to be a dragon swimming around the sword, and Shi Jian was quite startled. Just as he wanted to stop Zhao Fu slashed down with the Sin Dragon sword. Bang! The Sin Dragon sword gave off a massive sword chi that slammed into the rock giant's body, resulting in a muffled explosion. The sword chi blasted out like a wild gale, causing some cracks to appear on the rock giant's body. Zhao Fu had used his full strength in this attack, but because the rock giant's defense was simply too tough, he was only able to deal a small amount of damage. Rumble! An earth-shaking sound rang out as the slumbering rock giant furiously roared, shaking the sky. No one would be happy to be disturbed in their sleep, and the rock giant felt an intense pain in its body, so it immediately woke up and tried to stand up. Zhao Fu completely hid his aura and entered stealth. In an instant, he seemed to have disappeared, and no one could sense Zhao Fu's existence. Shi Jian was both shocked and furious, and he hurriedly rushed towards the rock giant. After all, the cage was tied to the rock giant's body, and within it was his son. Ah! Understanding that time was of the essence, Shi Jian roared and used all of his strength. He gripped his saber with both hands and gave off an incredibly sharp saber light, giving off a shocking aura as he slashed out. Boom! Space seemed to split apart as a huge green blade light slashed towards the iron cage. However, although the iron cage was covered with cracks, it was not damaged at all. This chain actually blocked my attack. Shi Jian was a little shocked, but he soon realized that the iron cage was already full of cracks. A light blow would break it. However, just as Shi Jian was about to attack again, roar! The rock giant once again let out a terrifying roar because the saber light had hit it at the same time. Suffering two massive attacks at once, the rock giant was completely enraged, and before it could even stand up, it swatted at Shi Jian with a backhand. The massive stone hand gave off shocking power as it slammed down, resulting in a massive explosion and forcing Shi Jian to dodge. By now, the rock giant had fully stood up. By now, Zhao Fu, who was hiding in the distance, could clearly see the rock giant's true appearance. It was 1,000 meters tall, and its head seemed to reach into the clouds. Because its body was made of massive rocks, it looked quite crude. However, one could roughly make out that it had a human body and a face. Now, this face was angrily looking at Shi. Then, as if sensing something, it turned its head and found that the fruit tree had also disappeared. Immediately, not only had it been woken up from its slumber, but it had also suffered 2 massive attacks. Now, the fruit tree that it had been guarding had disappeared. "Human! I'll kill you!" The stone giant let out a loud male voice before clenching his fists and punching toward Shi with all his might. The power of the stone fist was shocking, and it brought with it an intense pressure that covered Shi's entire body, making it difficult for him to dodge. He wanted to explain, but the rock giant did not give him an opportunity. Bang! Shi could only unleash his City Lord seal, which formed an azure barrier and blocked the rock giant's punch. After failing to hit Shi again, the rock giant furiously raised its 2 fists, which were like 2 small mountains, and punched towards Shi. Seeing this, there was nothing Shi could do. He looked at Shi, who was still hanging from the rock giant, and roared as a 1,000-meter-long azure saber image slashed out. Bang! The 2 mountain-like fists and the 1,000-meter-long saber image clashed, resulting in a massive explosion that blasted out like a wild gale. The rock giant's body was sent flying backwards, and it took a step back before stabilizing its body. Evidently, the azure saber image was stronger. Just as the rock giant lost its balance, Shi grasped this opportunity and charged at it. He quickly arrived beside the cage and slashed it apart with his saber before grabbing the unconscious Shi. Shi didn't hesitate to turn into a ray of light and escape to the side. Roar! Seeing that Shi was trying to escape, the rock giant was completely enraged. It gave a heart-rending roar and slammed its palms against the ground. Boom! A huge explosion rang out and the ground instantly cracked and collapsed. A 1,000-meter-long stone pillar suddenly shot out of the ground. Shi was given a big fright, but it was too late to dodge. In order to prevent Shi from being injured, Shi could only take all of the damage himself. Bang! Shi's body was like a sandbag as he quickly flew into the air, and he was lifted thousands of meters into the air by the massive stone pillar. Chi! Shi coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and he felt an intense pain in his body. His chest was a bloody mess, and blood dyed his clothes red. Bang! Another massive explosion sounded out as the rock giant stomped on the ground, leaving behind 2 massive footprints. It then leapt up and attacked Shi in the air. Arg! Shi roared. He knew that if he didn't risk his life, he would die here. His City Lord seal gave off a large amount of azure light, and Heavenstone City's city heart continuously trembled. Everyone in Heavenstone City felt an abnormal disturbance. The 100,000 system main city soldiers' expressions fell, and they understood that their City Lord was in danger. As such, they wanted to rush out to save Shi and their City Lord. If something happened to the City Lord, Heavenstone City would perish. After all, the City Lord's seal was the core of a city, and Heavenstone City's only remaining great general had wanted to defend the system main city in case someone attacked Heavenstone City. However, they were now faced with a dilemma: should they defend the city? Or should they save the City Lord? Chapter 479. Zhao Fu thought for a while. Yu Limping decided to personally lead 80,000 soldiers to help the City Lord and leave 20,000 soldiers to defend the city. Of course, 20,000 people would not be able to defend such a big city, so Yu Limping gathered a large number of residents and gave out quests to players for help. With 200,000 residents and 600,000 players defending the city, Yu Limping felt quite at ease. As such, he gathered 80,000 soldiers and headed towards the center of the region. Back at the center of the region, Shi Jian roared as the city lord's heart's power continuously entered his body, causing him to explode out with a terrifying aura as an azure aura flame appeared around him. Facing the incoming rock giant, Shi Jian raised his large saber and sent his power into it, causing it to give off a brilliant azure light that dyed the entire sky azure. A terrifying saber light flashed on the saber, causing the weather to change as a dangerous aura spread out. Boom! Shi Jian slashed down at the incoming rock giant, and the heavens and earth seemed to be split apart as a massive azure saber light slashed out, bringing with it an extremely powerful saber wind that seemed to destroy everything. The rock giant was given a big fright and immediately used its hands to block in front of it. At the same time, its arms gave off a gray-black aura as it defended. Bang! A massive sound rang out as the ground shook. The rock giant was slashed back to the ground, creating a large crater. A long gash appeared on the rock giant's chest. The gash was quite long, but it was not deep. If an ordinary boss monster had been hit by that attack, they would have been heavily injured. However, the rock giant was not heavily injured, showing just how powerful its defense was. Roar! After suffering this heavy blow, the rock giant furiously roared, its heart filled with rage. It stretched out a hand toward Shi Jian, who was trying to run away again. Boom! The rock giant gripped the air, and a formless energy exploded out. The countless boulders in the surrounding 100 kilometers seemed to be grabbed by a formless energy, and the floating boulders shot towards Shi Jian like cannonballs. Tens of thousands of boulders shot out simultaneously, giving off a ferocious aura. Facing such a terrifying attack, Shi Jian, who was about to escape, could only stop. He gripped his saber tightly and took a deep breath. His eyes glowed with a green light as he yelled, "Chaos-breaking saber!" Boom! 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 Loud noises rang out as Shi Jian stood in place, constantly waving the large saber in his hand. His hand left countless afterimages as he slashed out a terrifying blue saber light, cutting apart the flying boulders and causing them to fall like rain. Boom! As Shi Jian destroyed the countless boulders, a gray-black aura rose up from the rock giant's body as it used all of its strength. It leapt up from the ground and heavily punched towards Shi Jian. At this point, Shi Jian couldn't dodge, nor could he do anything, because he had to hold Shi Jian with one hand while holding the saber. Perhaps some people would say, why don't you just put Shi Jian to the side and focus on fighting the rock giant? That way you won't have to be so passive. This was because the shockwaves from the battle with the rock giant were too large, and it was possible that Shi Jian would die from the shockwaves. Moreover, the cloaked figure was still nearby, and if Shi Jian left, the cloaked figure would definitely try to threaten him again. Shi Jian could only block with his saber in front of him. The saber emitted a large amount of green light as he defended with all his might. Bang! The massive fist smashed into Shi Jian, sending him flying like a sandbag. Shi Jian tightly held on to Shi Jian so that he wouldn't fall to the ground. The rock giant also landed on the ground and continued to ferociously attack Shi Jian, and the battle continued. The other three city lords sensed the terrifying ripples coming from the center of the region, and their expressions fell, not knowing what was going on. Following this, they received a request for help from Heavenstone City's General Yu Limping, telling them that Heavenstone City was in danger and asking them to go and save Shi Jian. After hearing this news, the three city lords' hearts sank. This day had finally come. The seeds that had been planted back then had now been destroyed. They were a bit hesitant about this, but after thinking about it for a moment, they had the soldiers wait for orders. They decided to head to the center of the region to take a look at the situation before making a decision. The three city lords turned into rays of light and left their system main cities. However, soon they were each stopped by a person. Sensing the aura from the person in front of them, the three city lords' expressions became serious. This was because the person in front of them was also a city lord of a system main city, and they had never seen this person before. This meant that this person was most likely a city lord from another region. Just what was going on? Why did a city lord from another region interfere? The three city lords felt incredibly shocked, and they understood that things weren't as simple as they thought. They looked at the person in front of them seriously and asked, "Sir, who are you? Why are you stopping me?" Bai Qi coldly looked at the city lord in front of him and said, "Qin is here to do business. Unauthorized personnel are prohibited from entering." These words made one of the city lords feel quite angry. After all, this was their region, and yet they were being prohibited from entering by someone from another region. They didn't take them seriously at all. However, after thinking about it, the other party had most likely been waiting for them, which meant that the other party had predicted that they would interfere. This made the city lord feel quite uneasy. As for the other two city lords, they were most likely stopped by someone as well. That opponent can actually mobilize three city lords? Just what faction had interfered? Could it be that the dynasty legatee that Heavenstone City had offended had developed to such a powerful level? Sensing the terrifying shockwaves coming from the center of the region, the three city lords started to hesitate. This was evidently a muddy water, and they wondered if they should get involved. However, Heavenstone City was East Green's system main city, and if it was destroyed, the entire East Green region would be heavily affected, and their overall strength would be greatly reduced. He thought about it again and again. The three of them decided not to participate. After all, the person in front of them was a city lord, and he had come prepared. It was very likely that they would be stalled by him, and they would not be able to make much of an impact on the battle. Since they could not help, there was no need for them to foolishly step into these muddy waters. Heavenstone City was destined to suffer this time, and they couldn't change the outcome. Facing the people in front of them, the three city lords could only coldly harumph and return to their respective system main cities as if they were neither strong nor weak. Following this, they found that they couldn't teleport to Heavenstone City as if they had been stopped by some sort of power. Now, even if they tried to help, they wouldn't be able to. Elsewhere, Yu Limping led 80,000 soldiers towards the depths of East Green. The ominous feeling in his heart became stronger and stronger as they were about to face an ambush from Qin's 400,000 soldiers. Chapter 480. Of course, Yu Limping didn't know what he was going to encounter. He just wanted to go to the center of the area and save Shijian. Half of the 80,000 soldiers rode on warhorses, while the other half ran on foot. The system main cities had nearly 30,000 cavalrymen, and they had around 40,000 warhorses in reserve. At this moment, they were already unable to use the teleportation formation to head to the center of the region, because Zhao Fu had already given the order to use the isolation formation. They could only run over or borrow the strength of their horses. Swoosh, 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 when the 80,000 troops stepped onto a flat ground, Qin's soldiers, who had been waiting for a long time, shot arrows one after another. The rain of arrows covered the sky and covered the earth. It was impossible to tell how many arrows there were. However, in the face of this massive arrow aura, countless soldiers were shocked, and their hairs instinctively stood on end. Quick! Shield defense! Yes! Yu Limping hurriedly shouted. Countless soldiers also reacted in time. They raised their shields and formed a defensive wall. The soldiers who did not have shields hid inside the defensive wall. Puff, 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 countless arrows tore through the air and descended like rain. Even though the system main city soldiers had formed a defensive wall, there were simply too many arrows. Moreover, they had come so suddenly that many of the system main city soldiers were exposed to the rain of arrows. Under such a terrifying rain of arrows, blood splattered everywhere, and the stench of blood filled the air. Not many people were able to survive. Most of them were killed by countless arrows, and their deaths were quite miserable. There was also the warhorses. Because they were quite large, even though they had some simple defenses, they were unable to withstand the rain of arrows. As such, many of the warhorses were killed. This sudden wave of attack killed a quarter of the 80,000 soldiers in just a moment. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, there was another loud sound of something tearing through the air. This time, it wasn't ordinary arrows that were shot out, but crossbow bolts and spears. Ballistae and spears were extremely powerful, and were very suitable for breaking through shields. However, the opponent was already a Stage 1 soldier, so normal ballistae wouldn't work. As such, Qin used a Stage 1 ballista, which required blue-grade materials to make. Bang, bang, bang! The ballistae and spears smashed against the shield wall with immense force, and the shield-wielding soldiers felt as if a wild beast was charging at them. Blocking a single beast was not a problem, but blocking a group of them was something that they would not be able to defend against. One by one, the shield-wielding soldiers were knocked to the ground, and the shield wall also collapsed. Once the shield wall collapsed, countless ordinary arrows whistled through the air. Puff, puff, puff! Countless soldiers wanted to resist, bringing out large amounts of saber light and sword shadows. However, they were unable to defend at all, and their bodies were pierced by the arrows. At the same time, the system soldiers lost another quarter of their soldiers. Seeing this scene, Yu Limping could only give the order to retreat. Now, let alone saving the city lord, it would be difficult for them to even protect themselves. Yu Limping had never thought that the other side would be so powerful. There were already 400,000 soldiers, and there were 200,000 Stage 1 soldiers. The other soldiers also understood the current situation, so without any hesitation, they turned around and fled. On the other side of the plains, 80,000 or so cavalrymen were lined up, riding on tall black forest horses and holding spears. They looked ahead, giving off an oppressive and dangerous aura. Charge! As soon as the order was given, countless cavalrymen shot out like arrows. Rumble! The sound of countless horses galloping was like muffled thunder, extremely loud. The countless cavalrymen were like a torrent as they surged towards Yu Limping. By now, most of the warhorses on the system soldiers' side had died, and only a small portion were left. Most of the soldiers had to rely on their legs. Seeing this, Yu Limping's heart sank. They definitely could not outrun warhorses, so Yulin could only give the order to stop retreating. The remaining cavalrymen gathered together, while the shield-bearers formed a shield wall and the other soldiers supported the shield-bearers. Soon, under Yu Limping's command, the remaining soldiers formed a defensive wall, and the countless cavalrymen did not feel any fear at all. They raised their spears and sent their power into them, causing the spears to shine with a cold light. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the countless cavalrymen gave off ferocious auras and slammed into the defensive wall like a black torrent. The black torrent only paused for a moment before breaking through the middle of the defensive wall. Once a gap appeared in the middle, the entire defensive wall collapsed. Because Qin's side had an advantage in numbers, and their equipment and stats were slightly better than the system soldiers, the system soldiers were more or less injured. Adding on the cavalrymen's advantage, they were able to easily destroy the defensive wall. After the defensive wall collapsed, the other Qin's soldiers on both sides started to charge. Now, not only did the system soldiers have to face the cavalrymen, but there were also countless infantrymen rushing over from both sides. Yu Limping could only continue to give the order to retreat, because if they stayed, they would definitely die. However, how could Qin's soldiers let them escape? Qin's soldiers rushed up from the left and right, and a large number of archers came to the back, cutting off the system soldiers' escape routes. The battle quickly concluded. The ground was completely dyed red with blood, and the stench of blood was quite pungent. Corpses lay silently on the ground, and weapons were scattered everywhere. Even though Yu Limping had Stage 3 cultivation, he was still killed by 7 or 8 generals. The 80,000 system soldiers were completely annihilated, and it was incredibly rare for them to surrender. Even if they knew that they would die, they would rather fight with you than surrender. However, Qin's soldiers didn't suffer many losses. Only around 1,000 or so people were injured or killed. After clearing the battlefield and putting away the corpses and equipment, the 400,000 soldiers started to advance towards the system main city. The battle at the center of the region continued, and both Shi Jian and the rock giant had many wounds on their bodies. However, it was evident that the rock giant had a big advantage. After all, it had incredibly powerful defenses, and with its powerful body, it was very difficult to injure it. Zhao Fu hid in the distance and watched the battle. Boom! The azure saber light shot into the sky, causing a wild gale to blow. The massive saber chi wildly danced about, slicing through everything within a 10-kilometer radius. The trees, rocks, and ground were all left with saber gashes. Shi Jian used all of his strength to slash towards the rock giant. The azure saber light gave off an aura that seemed to be able to destroy everything, and it sent the rock giant's massive body flying. The rock giant heavily landed on the ground, causing the ground to violently tremble. A deep gash appeared on its body, and some green liquid flowed out. It seemed that the rock giant had been heavily injured. The rock giant, who had lost control of its emotions, furiously roared and exploded out with all of its strength. A gray aura flame appeared around it, and its body blurred before it disappeared. Chapter 481. In just an instant, the rock giant appeared above Shi Jian's head and slammed out with its palm, creating a gravitational field that covered 1,000 meters and smashing towards Shi Jian with enough power to crush steel. Shi Jian was unable to dodge, and he could only use his saber to block. Boom! The massive gravitational field slammed into Shi Jian's body, causing him to fly towards the ground like a rubber ball. When Shi Jian's body landed on the ground, the terrifying force caused the surrounding 100 meters to collapse. However, Shi Jian used his body to protect Shi Wen, taking on all of the damage. The massive tremors caused Shi Wen, who had breathed in the dream fragrance, to gradually wake up. Shi Wen opened his eyes and looked at his father, who was covered in blood. He felt quite surprised and hurriedly asked, "Dad, what's wrong?" Shi Jian's face was covered in blood, and he lovingly smiled, wanting to say something. Boom! A massive figure landed beside them, causing the ground to tremble. Shi Jian looked up and saw a rock giant ferociously glaring at them. Facing the two of them, the rock giant wouldn't show any mercy. It raised its massive foot and stomped down towards them, wanting to turn them into meat paste. Shi Jian pushed Shi Wen away with great difficulty and roared as he gripped his saber with both hands, giving off an intense green light as he blocked the rock giant's foot and dodged to the side. Boom! Suddenly, as the two of them fought, an extremely terrifying power exploded out from behind the stone giant. A pillar of demonic chi rushed into the clouds, and the entire sky was covered by demonic chi. The sun seemed to be dyed black, becoming like a demonic sun that gave off a boundless demonic might. A massive gale of sword chi spread out, giving off an aura that seemed to be able to destroy everything. A black-cloaked figure stood in the air, raising a sword that gave off a soul-devouring black light and a god-killing aura. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out, and the entire world seemed to tremble as a 10,000-meter-long black sword light slashed out, seeming to split apart the heavens. The rock giant was greatly startled, but it was too late to block. Its entire body was hit by the black sword light, which easily sliced apart the rock giant's body. The rock giant gave a pained roar that shook the heavens. Large amounts of green blood flew everywhere as a savage gash appeared on the rock giant's back, almost splitting it in half. Bang! The rock giant weakly knelt on the ground. Even though it had suffered such severe injuries, it still had a sliver of life left in it. It could be seen how strong the rock giant's life force was. Zhao Fu withdrew his power because the rock giant was no longer a threat. Just then, Zhao Fu had used his clan armament and City Lord Seal's power, or else he wouldn't have been able to deal such terrifying damage. Now that he had the support of a few nation legatees, Qin's fate quickly increased. Occasionally using his clan armament would not have much of an impact, and killing boss monsters would also give him a lot of fate. After fighting with Shi Jian for a long time, the boss of this region had already suffered many injuries and was almost out of strength. Adding on Zhao Fu's sneak attack, it had been able to achieve such a result. Zhao Fu's original plan was to use the rock giant to fight with Shi Jian, and then ambush Shi Jian with the death dagger and poison dragon liquid. However, he hadn't expected his strength to increase so quickly, so he changed his original plan and targeted both Shi Jian and the rock giant. Now, there was no need to use the death dagger and poison dragon liquid. Zhao Fu stood in the air and looked at the dying rock giant with his blood-red eyes. A strange emotion appeared in his heart and he said, "You can choose to surrender. I can spare your life." Even though Zhao Fu wanted to spare the rock giant weakly cried out, "You humans! Die!" After saying this, the dying rock giant raised its hand, wanting to attack Zhao Fu. It was a pity that the rock giant's body was on the verge of death, and it didn't have much strength left. Even raising its hand was incredibly slow. Zhao Fu didn't waste any words and easily dodged the rock giant's attack. He came to its head and slashed out 10 or so sword lights, decapitating the rock giant's head. The rock giant's massive body shattered into countless rock. A ray of light suddenly shot out from the side and quickly escaped. Zhao Fu didn't have time to see what the rock giant had dropped, and his body turned into a ray of black light and blocked the ray of light. "Do you really think you can escape?" Zhao Fu coldly stared at Shi Jian, who was trying to escape with Shi Wen in his arms. Shi Jian's expression was quite unsightly as he said, "Sir, I advise you not to kill us. I advise you not to kill them all, as the 3 city lords in this area won't just stand by and watch." Hearing his words, Zhao Fu couldn't help but laugh. "Is that so? Then why aren't they here yet?" Seeing how confident Zhao Fu was, Shi Jian's expression fell. Something must have happened. The 3 of them should have arrived long ago, but they still hadn't arrived. "Father! Who is he? Why is he trying to kill us?" Shi Wen angrily looked at Zhao Fu. He still didn't know who Zhao Fu was, so he asked Shi Jian. Shi Jian sighed and said, "He's the dynasty legatee that you offended before." Hearing this, Shi Wen's expression fell, and he panicked. However, he quickly calmed down and said, "I was in the wrong before. The Qian family was the main culprit. It was their trap, and I've already destroyed the Qian family. If you let us go, Heavenstone City will compensate you." Seeing that Shi Wen had become so mature, Shi Jian felt quite pleased and smiled as he said, "All right, sure, he won't let us go." "Sure, there's no way he'll let us go, so we can only fight. I'll hold him off while you run." "No. Father, I want to stay here. Now that I have stage 2 strength, I can help you." Shi Wen surprisingly chose to stay. It seemed that he truly loved his father. Deep love between father and son? Zhao Fu coldly looked at this scene and raised the sky demon sword. He slashed out, and a 10 or so meter long black arc of light flew towards Shi Jian and his son. Shi Jian coldly harumphed, and his body exploded out with a large amount of azure light as he prepared to counterattack. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu stretched out his fist, and a few rays of azure light shot out from his fingers. Shi Jian's face paled because Zhao Fu was holding a City Lord seal shard, which was what Zhao Fu had obtained during that battle. Now, the City Lord's seal was resonating with the shard, and each of them gave off an azure light. However, the azure light around Shi Jian's body started to slowly disappear, as the City Lord's seal wouldn't attack it. This was because Zhao Fu had the shard, so the City Lord's seal recognized him as one of its own. At that moment, the City Lord's seal automatically stopped giving off power. Only when the City Lord's seal fused with the shard would the City Lord's seal once again give off power. Chapter 482. Once he lost his City Lord Seal's power, how could Shi Jian, who only had stage 4 cultivation, be a match for Zhao Fu? Even if Zhao Fu didn't use his nation armament or clan armament, just his City Lord Seal would be enough to defeat him. Sir, I'm willing to give Heavenstone City to you, but please spare us father and son. It was clear that he wasn't a match for Zhao Fu, so Shi Jian could only soften his tone and speak to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu sneered. How could he let them go now? After all, Shi Jian was a stage 4 expert, and he might cause some trouble. Getting rid of him was the best solution. Zhao Fu did not reply to Shi Jian and was about to kill this father and son pair. Seeing this, Shi Jian hurriedly said, "Aren't you afraid that I'll detonate the City Lord Seal? Although I can't use the City Lord Seal's power, I can still detonate it." This caused Zhao Fu to stop because Zhao Fu was indeed worried that Shi Jian would detonate the City Lord Seal. Once the City Lord Seal was detonated, the system main city would degenerate into an advanced town and would have to condense a City Lord Seal again. This was something that Zhao Fu did not want to see. After all, the value of a system main city would greatly decrease. Now Zhao Fu felt quite troubled. He didn't want to let the Shi family's father and son go, and he also wanted to obtain the City Lord Seal. However, just as Zhao Fu was hesitating, Shi Jian took out something and threw it to the side with all his might. It was so fast that it flashed past like a green shadow. In the blink of an eye, it was already far away. Zhao Fu sensed the City Lord Seal's aura, so he turned into a ray of light and chased after it. In less than 2 minutes, Zhao Fu vigorously rushed forwards and grabbed at the air, causing a massive formless hand to grab the City Lord Seal. Looking at the stone seal in his hand and confirming that it was indeed a City Lord Seal, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. He quickly turned and found that the Shi family's father and son were still there. However, Zhao Fu immediately felt that something was off. Shi Jian had cut open his palm, causing blood to continuously flow out. He drew a blood-red talisman in the air, which looked quite extraordinary and gave off a mysterious and obscure power. At a speed visible to the naked eye, Shi Jian's appearance began to age. It should be because of the blood talisman. Zhao Fu did not hesitate and was about to make his move. On the other side, Shi Jian gave a loving smile and handed a spatial ring to Shi Wen. Shi Wen's eyes were filled with tears, but Shi Jian patted his back and said gently, "You'll have to rely on yourself in the future." Sensing Zhao Fu's attack, Shi Jian pointed out, and the blood-colored talisman in the air entered Shi Wen's body, causing him to turn into a streak of blood-colored light that shot into the sky. Clang, clang, clang. Chains shot out from the void, entangling the blood-red light. However, the blood-red light was incomparably fast, and the chains actually failed to lock it down. Seeing the blood-red light disappear into the sky, Zhao Fu felt quite angry. He looked at Shi Jian and waved his hand. A formless energy sent Shi Jian flying. Bang! Shi Jian's body crashed into a massive boulder, and the terrifying force caused cracks to appear on the boulder. Shi Jian coughed up a mouthful of blood as his body slowly slid down the ground. He had already been heavily injured in the battle with the rock giant, and he had used a forbidden technique that consumed a large amount of his essence blood to allow Shi Wen to escape. Now, he did not have any strength left in his body. However, as long as Shi Wen could escape, it would all be worth it. As Shi Jian's body slowly slid down, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him and grabbed him by the throat. Zhao Fu was not so angry, and he looked at Shi Jian calmly. He could feel the deep fatherly love that Shi Jian had for Shi Wen, and he said softly, "You're a good father." Shi Jian bitterly smiled. Zhao Fu looked away and did not say anything else as he twisted the hand around Shi Jian's throat. Gotcha! Shi Jian's throat was broken by Zhao Fu. Shi Jian was the City Lord of Heavenstone City, and he was dead. Zhao Fu put Shi Jian's corpse into his spatial ring. He did not have any good things on him, including the large saber that he had used before. They had all been put into that spatial ring, which was the one that Shi Jian had given to Shi Wen. This spatial ring was incredibly valuable, and it was worth at least 600,000 to 700,000 gold coins. There were at least 2 pieces of legendary grade equipment, and there were many other pieces of equipment and skills. Zhao Fu did not care too much about the spatial ring, but he felt that it was a pity that Shi Wen had escaped. However, obtaining the Heavenstone City Lord seal was not bad either. Zhao Fu took out the Heavenstone City Lord seal and looked at it before taking out the shard. The shard gave off a faint azure light and flew towards the City Lord seal, fusing with it, forming a complete City Lord seal. Zhao Fu already had the Qin City Lord seal, so he could not have another City Lord seal. As such, Zhao Fu decided to give this City Lord seal to Sima Qiu. After returning to the place where he had killed the rock giant, Zhao Fu felt quite curious and excited, as he wondered what the boss monsters of this region would drop. Zhao Fu looked closely and found that there were 4 types of items. The first was a grayish-black rock, which was the rock on the rock giant's body, and it had special attribute: body stone. The rock on the rock giant's body can be fused into any stone structure, greatly increasing the sturdiness of the structure. It also has a certain degree of immunity to all magic skills. There were roughly 1,000 or so of these body stones, and it could be fused into a structure or all of them. The sturdiness of the structure would also be different. The second type was 4 crystals that were as big as a palm. They were dark green and irregularly shaped, and they gave off an oppressive aura. Rock Giant Crystal. A type of crystal from the rock giant's body. It is a high-grade legendary grade material, and can be used to forge legendary grade equipment. 4 stone golem crystals could create 4 pieces of high-grade legendary equipment, which was quite good. Of course, the more legendary equipment he had, the better. Zhao Fu put away the 4 stone golem crystals and looked at the next item. The third item looked like a shard of a mask. It was black and made of wood, and it was as big as half a palm. There were some pictures on it, but because it was a shard, it was impossible to tell what they were. At the same time, it gave off an ancient aura. This made Zhao Fu feel quite delighted, as this was a shard of the desolate blood mask. In the previous auction, Zhao Fu had bought a nation armament shard at a high price, which was a desolate blood mask shard. The desolate blood mask had been split into 4 pieces, and Zhao Fu had now obtained 2 of them. Zhao Fu wondered if he would be able to restore it after collecting the 4 desolate blood mask shards. If he could restore it, that would be great, as Qin would have another nation armament. Chapter 483. This item was a gray stone orb that was as big as a watermelon. It was very round and rough, and it gave off a very sturdy aura. Rock Giant Heart, the core of a rock giant. It contains a large amount of stone power and can summon 5 rock puppets. After looking at the information, Zhao Fu felt quite interested in these rock puppets, so he took out the rock giant heart and tested it out. The stone orb floated up in Zhao Fu's hand, and a formless energy spread out, causing large rocks nearby and underground to gather. Following this, the rocks started to form humanoid shapes under the control of the formless energy, forming 5 rock giants that were 10 meters tall. These stone golems could also be called stone giant. After all, 10 meters was quite tall, and these stone golems did not have true life. Instead, they were formed from the stone golem heart and were controlled by the stone golem heart. As such, even if these stone golems were destroyed, they could reform after some time. Zhao Fu felt that it was quite a pity that he didn't have the rock giants to protect him. If he could control the 1,000-meter-tall rock giants, they would definitely be powerful siege machines. Now that he only had 5 10-meter-tall rock giants, they definitely wouldn't be as effective. Finally, there were the system announcements for killing the boss monsters. System announcement. You have killed the rock giant and obtained 10,000 achievement points. System announcement. You have killed the rock giant and obtained a large amount of region fate. System announcement. You have killed the rock giant and obtained 300,000 EXP. System announcement. You have obtained 1 legend point. After looking at these achievement points, Zhao Fu felt that there was quite a lot, and he instantly became a second-ranked count. As for the region fate, it was something that could be obtained from destroying a system main city or killing a boss monster. However, the amount of EXP was quite low, only 300,000 EXP. Finally, Zhao Fu didn't know how to use the legend point, so he put it aside for now. Following this, Zhao Fu put away all of the spoils of war and started to attack Heavenstone City. Yu Limping had gathered a large number of residents and players to defend the city, and seeing that the rewards were quite good, countless players had joined in, wondering who would be so bold as to attack a system main city. After all, apart from Qin, who had used the undead disaster to destroy 4 system main cities, there hadn't been a single system main city that had been destroyed. With how powerful system main cities were, they weren't something that players could contend against. They had been incredibly confident, and they had thought that no one would attack Heavenstone City. As such, they had been waiting for the reward for defending the city. However, they had never thought that groups of well-equipped and powerful soldiers would surround Heavenstone City. At the same time, they found that teleportation channels couldn't be used, and the countless players started to panic. However, after being comforted by the system main city's officials, they calmed down. After all, they had more than 1.4 million people. Although the enemies outside the city were powerful, and their numbers could reach 400,000, as long as they worked together to defend the city, the enemies outside would definitely not easily attack. Back then, Qin's soldiers indeed wouldn't easily attack. Even though there weren't many soldiers in the city, and the residents' and players' cultivations were quite low, there were still quite a few of them. If they forcefully attacked, Qin would lose a quarter of his soldiers. As such, according to the plan, they would only surround Heavenstone City and not attack. They would wait for Zhao Fu to kill Shi Jian and take the City Lord's seal before attacking. At first, the residents and players were filled with confidence, but after hearing that Shi Jian had died and that Heavenstone City had changed owners, they started to panic. An azure energy barrier appeared around the city hall to protect itself, and the city was in complete chaos. Everyone quickly packed their things and prepared to escape. After all, the City Lord was the spiritual figure of a system main city, and the City Lord's seal was the core item of a system main city. Now that the spiritual figure had died, the City Lord's seal had fallen into someone else's hands. Now that the 2 most important things of a system main city were gone, how could they have the confidence to defend against the enemies outside? They were like a pile of loose sand. Zhao Fu quickly flew outside Heavenstone City, and Sar and Meng Tian, who had been waiting for a long time, bowed and respectfully called out, "Your Majesty." Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded and looked down at Heavenstone City. Boom! A massive aura covered the entire city, causing all of the panicking people's bodies to sink as a trace of fear appeared in their hearts. They all stopped what they were doing and looked at the person in the sky. Zhao Fu stood in the air and looked down at the people below as he said, "I'm sure that you've all guessed my identity. Qin has taken revenge for that day. Whether it's the 80,000 soldiers or your city lord, they were all killed by Qin. You only have 2 choices. Either you die or you surrender. Also, it's best if the players don't get involved, or all of the leaders of the factions will be executed. I'm talking about a true execution." After hearing that their city lord had been killed by the person in the sky, some of the residents looked furious, while others looked fearful. As for the players, they all looked terrified. When Zhao Fu reported Qin's name, all of Heavenstone City's players were greatly shocked. Before, the entire world had been shrouded by Qin, and countless people could only tremble and pray for their lives. Even though the undead disaster had stopped and the 6 paths of reincarnation had been closed, countless players' fear towards Qin hadn't decreased at all. East Green's players naturally knew that there was enmity between Heavenstone City and Qin. It was because of what had happened at Heavenstone City that Qin's legatee had appeared, resulting in a terrifying battle. Now that so many people were attacking Heavenstone City, the first person they thought of was Qin. After all, apart from Qin, no one else had the strength to do such a thing. At first, they had felt a bit of hope, but now that they had personally heard that it was Qin, they couldn't help but feel terrified. Most importantly, the person standing in the air was the incredibly ferocious legatee Qin. Just then, he had said that if any player factions got involved, all of the leaders of the factions would be executed. Countless players knew that Qin had the ability to bring people into the Heaven Awakened world, so if he said that they would be executed, then they would be executed. Under the threat of death, countless players came down from the city walls and yelled, "Legatee Qin, we surrender. We don't dare to be your enemy, please spare us." Hearing these players' words, the countless residents' expressions fell. They were already quite weak, and they would definitely lose against Qin without a doubt. As such, they wanted to pull in countless players to have a chance of fighting. However, they had never thought that these players would surrender so quickly without any resistance. Now that they had lost the players' support, the countless residents didn't know what to do. Chapter 484. What should we do? Heavenstone City's officials hurriedly discussed among themselves. This was a moment of life and death, so they couldn't help but feel anxious. Right now there were only two paths they could take: surrender and preserve their lives, or resist and face certain death. They had no chance of victory. A short official with small eyes said with a fearful expression, "I say, let's surrender. If we continue to resist, we'll be massacred. Don't think about us, think about the innocent resident." If Shi Jian was still here, he would be able to preserve his loyalty, but now that Shi Jian was dead, he had to think about himself. Of course, no one wanted to die. Death meant that they would lose everything, and they would never be able to enjoy this world again. Another well-built big man unhappily harumphed and said, "I think you're the one who's afraid of death. How dare you drag Heavenstone City's residents into this? I think we shouldn't surrender and kill as many as we can. It's best if we can take revenge for the city lord." This big man was evidently very loyal to Shi Jian, so he was willing to sacrifice his life to resist. The others all had different thoughts, and they were split into those who wanted to surrender and those who wanted to resist. The two sides were arguing, and neither side could convince the other. In the sky, Zhao Fu didn't give them any time to think. He took out Heavenstone City's City Lord seal and chose to remove the city walls, making all of Heavenstone City's residents criminals. A formless energy burst forth from the City Lord's seal, and the incredibly sturdy city walls that were dozens of meters tall started to crack. Soon, they started to collapse, giving off massive sounds that shocked countless people. Now that their defensive city walls were gone, their confidence in resisting plummeted. The players all wanted to surrender, and they didn't dare to resist at all. Heavenstone City's residents' expressions were quite unsightly. Not only were their defensive city walls gone, but they had also been made criminals. If they continued to stay within Heavenstone City, their stats would be reduced by 30%, and they wouldn't receive any buffs from the city either. Now that their stats were slightly lower than ordinary players, it would be much easier for Qin to kill them. It would be a massacre. The officials' expressions fell, and they immediately fell silent. The few of them fell silent. It was time to make a final decision. Heavenstone City's residents, I'll say it again. If you're willing to surrender, come out and enjoy the same treatment as Qin City's residents. If you're not willing, I can only kill all of you. Zhao Fu's voice, which was filled with killing intent, sounded out. This caused the officials to make a decision and say, "I choose to surrender. If this goes on, we'll just die a meaningless death." The other officials sighed inwardly and did not try to stop them. After all, they had no right to ask others to die with them. However, they also made up their minds to fight to the death with Qin. Very soon, the system main city's residents split into two groups. One group walked out of the city and knelt on the ground, choosing to surrender, while the other raised their weapons and set up simple defenses, preparing to fight. Roughly 200,000 or so people had come out, and they were all system main residents. There were not a single system main city soldier. Heavenstone City had 380,000 residents, which meant that 180,000 residents had chosen to resist, and the remaining 20,000 soldiers had also chosen to fight. Zhao Fu couldn't help but coldly and cruelly laugh. Now there was no need for Qin City to act, and Zhao Fu loudly said to the players, "Do you usually envy the indigenous residents' equipment? Do you envy their skills? Do you covet their wealth? Now I've listed them as criminals, and their stats are even lower than yours. I'll allow you to commit any crime, whether it's murder, robbery, or anything else. As long as you don't leave a single person alive in the system main city, I'll open the isolation barrier in 4 hours, and you can leave." Zhao Fu's words caused countless players' eyes to go red. Every system main city's indigenous residents had a lot of wealth, and just as Zhao Fu had said, players coveted the indigenous residents' wealth. However, because of the system main city's soldier suppression, they didn't dare to do anything. However, it seemed that Heavenstone City didn't have the power to stop them anymore. What was more important was that Qin City's legatee had given permission to do this, so they could openly plunder everything without fear. There were roughly 200,000 indigenous residents and soldiers left, and if Qin City's 400,000 soldiers charged in, they would be able to easily kill everyone. After all, their equipment and cultivations were far superior to theirs, and this was especially so for the 200,000 Stage 1 soldiers. After all, Stage 1 soldiers could kill a group of people with lower cultivations. However, there were 200,000 indigenous residents, and Qin City's casualties could reach 10,000. As such, Zhao Fu wanted to use the players within the city. After all, the wealth within the city wasn't something that Qin City cared about. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, the countless players immediately started to move. Not only would they be able to obtain great benefits, but they would also be able to survive, so of course they would be happy. Many players picked up their weapons and rushed at the indigenous residents, and the battle immediately started. Countless players excitedly rushed at the indigenous residents and started to kill them, taking everything of value. The indigenous residents had never thought that before they could even fight with Qin, they would have to face countless greedy players. There were nearly 1 million players, and their stats were slightly higher than theirs. The only advantage they had was their equipment. The indigenous residents did their best to resist, but they were unable to stop the countless greedy players from plundering. An official, who was the valiant-looking big man from before, led 10,000 soldiers out of the city and rushed towards Qin's soldiers, ignoring the countless players behind them. He didn't want to die at the hands of those players, as they only had one enemy, Qin. However, Qin had long since set up his bow, killing anyone who rushed out. Countless arrows rained down, and before the 10,000 or so soldiers could reach Qin, they were completely annihilated. This bloody and terrifying scene scared some of the players who had wanted to rush out of the city to pick up equipment, and they could only retreat in fear. The surrendered indigenous residents all had complicated and sorrowful expressions as they looked at the people being chased by countless players. They had once been from Heavenstone City, and many of them knew each other. However, there was nothing they could do as they watched them being killed. This was the outcome of not surrendering. The battle concluded much sooner than expected. All 200,000 indigenous residents had died, and 100,000 or so players had died. Corpses littered the ground, and the stench of blood filled the air. The city was in complete disarray, but most of the players still looked delighted as they stepped into teleportation channels and headed to other system main cities. Chapter 485. Behind the disaster cavalrymen was a large group of skeleton mages wearing gray cloaks and holding bone staff. They had black tongues of flames in their heads, and there were 30,000 of them. During the last undead disaster, Zhao Fu had kept 30,000 skeleton mages. Because the disaster cavalrymen could control 30,000 skeleton mages, they could completely control the skeleton mages. This was one of the reasons why Zhao Fu had kept the skeleton mages. In the Heaven Awaken world, the mage profession was incredibly rare, which was another reason why Zhao Fu had kept the skeleton mages. Apart from single-target attacks, the skeleton mages could also summon creatures, which was the undead resurrection skill. Each skeleton mage could control 5 skeletons, so 30,000 skeleton mages could control 150,000 skeletons. That way, with the help of the disaster cavalrymen, Zhao Fu could control 150,000 skeletons. This was the third reason why Zhao Fu had kept the skeleton mages. These skeletons were different from the undead disaster skeletons because they were all controlled by Zhao Fu. As such, they could listen to Qin's orders, and they wouldn't just follow their instincts and pounce on any living creature. Now that most of the players had left, the other 3 system main cities also heard about Heavenstone City's destruction. The reason why Zhao Fu had let the skeleton mages into the city was because he wanted to use the countless residents' corpses to summon more skeletons. The soldiers stood guard outside the city and didn't need to clean up the battlefield. After all, anything of value would be taken by the players who valued money as much as their lives, so there wouldn't be anything of value left. Countless skeleton mages flooded into the city and chanted strange incantations beside the corpses. They then raised their bone staffs, and a gray light covered one of the corpses. The corpse's flesh and blood slowly withered before falling off, revealing a pure white skeleton. A tongue of black flame appeared in the skeleton's head, and the skeleton seemed to come back to life as it slowly stood up. As the skeleton mages continuously used undead resurrection, Zhao Fu went to Heavenstone City Hall and looked at the golden cube floating in the air. A trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he chose to conquer it and relocate. System announcement. Congratulations, you have conquered a system main city and obtained 5,000 achievement points. System announcement. Because you are a legatee, you have conquered a system main city and obtained a large amount of fate. Notification. You have relocated a system main city and obtained 840,000 EXP. Notification. Congratulations, you have received 200 war points. A series of notifications rang out in his mind. Zhao Fu took a few glances at them, but they were the same as before, so he didn't pay much attention to them and ordered them to return to Qin City. By now, countless factions in the real world had received the news that Qin City, which had been very calm this entire time, had finally made a move. What's more, he had shocked everyone by destroying a system main city. This was the first time that a player had relied on their own strength to take down a system main city. Before, when the undead disaster had destroyed 4 system main cities, everyone had felt that it had been quite easy, so they weren't too surprised. However, if a single faction had been able to take down a system main city, they would be quite shocked. After all, just how much power was needed to conquer a system main city? One's power had to surpass that of a system main city, or else how could one attack a system main city? Does Qin have such strength now? Countless factions felt a deep fear towards Qin City's strength. As a last resort, countless factions once again came to the Ying family to ask for the Qin writs and Holy Daughter writs. With these 2 writs, they wouldn't have to worry about Qin City suddenly destroying the city, and they would be able to keep themselves safe. However, the Ying family had long since obeyed Zhao Fu's orders and didn't accept anyone's visit. As such, the countless factions could only act shamelessly and surround the Ying family, refusing to leave no matter what. The Ying family couldn't do anything. They couldn't kill all of them, so they could only let them be. Suddenly, another big piece of news spread. The Feng family had sent Feng Xiu to the Ying family. Feng Xiu was the 10th rank beauty on the ancient beauty rankings, and she was a descendant of Feng Xiaoyan's family. All of the women on the ancient beauty rankings were the focus of countless men's attention. Even in their dreams, they dreamed of meeting them. If they could get close to them, they would be incredibly lucky. Basically, every woman was pursued by countless young masters of influential families, officials, and nobles. News about them was the hottest topic on the forum. Now that the Feng family had sent Feng Xiu to the Ying family, it was obvious that they wanted a holy daughter writ so that they could become a part of Qin City as soon as possible. At this moment, those who knew that they couldn't defeat Qin City could join the Qin family as soon as possible, which would bring them great benefits. Those who joined later wouldn't be able to enjoy such benefits. After that, 3 more pieces of news came out. After Li Qingzhao's family, Li Muqing volunteered to join the Ying family. After Lu Ruxi's family, Lu Rian was sent to join the Ying family. And after Pan Yunu's family, Pan Yuling was also sent to join the Ying family. These 3 women were all famous beauties, and their rankings were quite high. Especially Li Muqing, with her outstanding talent and beauty, she was ranked 11th on the ancient beauty rankings. Many geniuses and celebrities from influential families didn't expect that she would volunteer to join the Ying family. Many geniuses who adored her were heartbroken. They wrote many poems describing Qin City's brutality and debauchery. There were 4 rare beauties in the world. Now, they were sent to the Ying family and became the women of Qin City's crown prince. Many men were jealous and envious of them. However, they didn't dare to say it out loud, which made them feel aggrieved. Facing these 4 women, the Ying family thought about it and decided to accept them. After all, as an emperor, he would definitely have many women. Moreover, they were all top-grade beauties, and the family leaders were sure that their legatees would like them very much. Moreover, their crown prince had issued the holy daughter writ before, which was obviously an action to plunder all the beauties in the world. Therefore, they accepted the 4 women and took good care of them. Of course, Zhao Fu didn't know about these things. After returning to Qin City, he gave the fruit of life to the people of the medicine department and told them to take good care of it. The life-changing pill made from the fruit of life was very important to Qin City. The 9 fruits on the tree hadn't ripened yet, so they had to wait for a while. After all, they were level 6 spiritual fruit. The higher the level, the longer it would take for them to ripen. After taking care of the fruit of life, Zhao Fu went to the city wall of Qin City and took out many huge body stones. Now Zhao Fu had more than 1,500 body stones. Zhao Fu planned to use only 300 body stones in Qin City. Chapter 486. Zhao Fu planned to save the remaining body stones for later, which was to use them on the 4 kingdom barriers that Qin City had planned. Because those were the borders of kingdoms, battles would be quite intense, which was why they needed powerful defenses. Qin City was the core city of Qin City, so it was very important. However, if the enemy attacked Qin City, it meant that Qin City might lose. After all, if a faction's core was attacked, even if it didn't die, it would be crippled. As such, it wasn't enough for the core city to be powerful, and they needed the other cities to be powerful as defenses. In other words, they couldn't just focus on developing one city. They had to develop the other cities as well, and they had to put on armor for the core city. Only then would they be truly powerful. Otherwise, no matter how powerful their core city was, if the other cities were conquered, how could they be called a kingdom? Zhao Fu didn't just want a lord or a few cities. He wanted a kingdom with countless cities and citizens. The body stones were quite easy to use. After placing them on the city walls, they would give a prompt asking if they wanted to fuse with the city walls. If they did, the stones would automatically fuse with the city walls, and they would slowly sink. After the stones fused with the city walls, Zhao Fu received a system announcement. Rockman's Wall. This attribute greatly increases the defense of the city walls and makes them immune to magic. After looking at these attributes, Zhao Fu felt quite satisfied. Now, Qin City could refine stage 3 medicinal pills. These were medicinal pills made from windbell fruits, which Zhao Fu cared a lot about. As such, he went to the alchemy room to take a look. Zhang Baishu was in charge of alchemy, as he was an advanced alchemy grandmaster in Qin City. Zhang Baishu watched as Zhang Baishu placed the ingredients into the cauldron one after another. Then, he used the flames of the spell formation to fuel the concoction. Countless ingredients melted in the cauldron, and under Zhang Baishu's control, he used a variety of other methods to produce medicinal pills the size of peas. Zhao Fu picked up a wind bell pill that had just come out of the furnace. The pill was still very hot and gave off some white steam, giving off a fruity fragrance. Zhao Fu used his power to cool the pill down before consuming it. The wind bell pill entered his body and turned into a wave of green spirit energy. Its effect was several times better than a stage 2 pill, and Zhao Fu smiled in satisfaction. With the windbell pills, Qin's soldiers' cultivation speed would far surpass that of ordinary system soldiers. This was because Qin's medicinal pills were good and his talent was high, so he would definitely surpass them. Finally, Zhao Fu refined Shijian, Lu Xing, and Yu Limping's corpses and obtained 3 SSS grade orbs, 2 rank 3 blood god pills, and 1 rank 4 blood god pill. Following this, Zhao Fu called Sima Qiu over. Sima Qiu's grade was now SSS grade, and he had used an innate talent blood crystal to raise it. He also had general fate, but it was a pity that his soldier soul was still lacking. Otherwise, Zhao Fu would have been able to see what general star he had awakened. The reason why Zhao Fu called him over was to give him Heavenstone City seal. Heavenstone City had long since been rebuilt, and Sima Qiu was now the city lord. Zhao Fu had left half of the 200,000 residents in Heavenstone City, and the rest had been sent to other cities. The main reason was to prevent them from having any thoughts of resisting. Moreover, the city needed to be rebuilt. Even though they could easily relocate the city, the buildings would not be moved, and they needed to be rebuilt. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and handed over the Azure Heavenstone City seal. Sima Qiu looked quite excited because this was a system main city seal. With it, he would instantly become one of the most powerful people in the Heaven Awaken world, and he would be able to truly serve Qin. Sima Qiu immediately half-knelt and accepted the city lord's seal as he said gratefully, "Thank you, your majesty." Zhao Fu lightly nodded. Now, Qin had 6 city lords, and this did not include Zhao Fu himself. His power was extraordinary. After taking care of these matters, Zhao Fu had his soldiers and generals rest for a while. The next day, he would gather the generals to discuss Qin's future plans. Of course, Qin's next plan was to continue attacking cities and speed up the restoration of his kingdom. There were 3 main goals. The first was Westpan City, which was the Kobold City. Qin had been trading with it for a long time, using a large number of medicinal pills containing hidden evil and equipment containing shattersteel iron to exchange for goods and slave. Now, 3 or 4 months had passed, and the hidden evil pills' effects were most likely going to take effect soon, allowing them to attack Westpan City. The second was the region near North Nam, which was the border between China and Vietnam. Zhao Fu had used a scheme to cause a war between a Vietnamese system main city and a Chinese system main city, providing a large number of Stage 1 corpses for Qin. That Vietnamese system main city had suffered heavy losses, and it had lost 50,000 or so Stage 1 soldiers. Now there were 40,000 or so Stage 1 soldiers left, and most of the players had died. Even though soldiers could be replenished and players could be respawned, they had not recovered their strength yet. Compared to other system main cities, it would be easier to attack. However, there were two things that Zhao Fu had to pay attention to. The first was that the other Vietnamese system main city's city lord would definitely help. Back then, she had stopped Zhao Fu from killing Flowing Water City's city lord, causing Zhao Fu to waste his fate and use his nation armaments power. Zhao Fu clearly remembered this, and he had told her to prepare for Qin's revenge. The second was that as a Chinese faction, if Qin wanted to destroy a Vietnamese system main city, ordinary players would desperately resist, and they would not be able to do as much damage as Qin had done in China. After all, even though they were afraid of Great Qin, they understood that Great Qin was a Chinese person. If Great Qin was a Vietnamese faction, Great Qin could come out and scare them, and they would choose to run. However, Great Qin was not a Vietnamese faction and did not belong to the same country. As such, they would definitely receive hatred and resistance. The third target was, of course, the Forest of Horrors. If they could unify the Forest of Horrors, that region would completely belong to Qin, which would bring them great benefit. It would become Qin's base and provide a large amount of resources and manpower. It would be the first cornerstone of Qin's establishment, and it would slowly devour other regions until it could restore Qin. However, this would be quite difficult because Qin was in the Forest of Horrors, and the other three system main cities definitely knew of Qin's existence. They would realize how dangerous Qin was, so they would definitely make preparations. If Qin did anything, he would have to face the attacks of three system main cities, which would be quite difficult for Qin to deal with. As such, Zhao Fu had to think of a good plan, otherwise it would be best not to act first. After thinking about it for a while, Chapter 487. Since he had chosen Westpan City as his target, he had to gather some information. As such, Zhao Fu called Guo Binglin over and had him bring over the information on Westpan City. After looking through the information, Zhao Fu found that there weren't many changes to Westpan City. Apart from having 30,000 more people, there were also some more buildings. This was all thanks to the equipment and medicinal pills that Zhao Fu had provided. Even though these medicinal pills had side effects, if it wasn't for Qin, they would have been good equipment and medicinal pills that could greatly increase one's battle strength. Once one's battle strength increased, they would attack others, plunder resources, and occupy large amounts of land. However, the kobolds were still the same, staying in their old places and not expanding. This was why Zhao Fu had said that it was all thanks to the medicinal pills. It seemed that these kobolds had been living too comfortably. Even though they were powerful, they didn't attack others. This wasn't wrong, and it could be said that this was a righteous act that many people would support. However, in Zhao Fu's eyes, this was completely wrong. If you didn't attack others when you were powerful, would others not attack you when they were powerful? The answer was that they would definitely attack because they would occupy large amounts of resources when they were powerful. Once they became weak, others would definitely try to plunder them. You might be righteous and not bully the weak, but don't think that others would be like you. China was a good example, so in ancient times, it had often been invaded by other races. Only by standing in a position of absolute strength would you be able to welcome true peace. However, if you became weak, you would immediately suffer all sorts of backlash. From how Zhao Fu saw it, conquering others was the only way to resolve things. One couldn't give one's enemies any opportunities unless one was always powerful. Otherwise, one would suffer all sorts of backlash, humiliation, and even death. After all, one's enemies wouldn't show any mercy. As such, Zhao Fu felt that the kobolds' actions were completely wrong. Zhao Fu worshipped power, but his ultimate goal was to unify the world and achieve true peace. Today was the time for the trade. Normally, it would be Qin's other people who went to trade, but now Zhao Fu could personally go and take a look. They definitely had to attack Westpan City, as it was the weakest of the three targets, and Qin could easily take it down. After a few teleportations, Zhao Fu arrived at Westpan City. The one who received Zhao Fu was still the kobold named Bellin. It seemed that he was living quite a good life. He was dressed much more extravagantly, and his entire body had gained a lot of weight. "Long time no see, Lord Bellin." Zhao Fu slightly smiled and bowed as he spoke. Seeing Zhao Fu arrive, Bellin looked quite happy. Being able to trade with Zhao Fu had caused his status to continuously rise, and so had his treatment. "Yeah. Long time no see, please take a seat." Bellin warmly invited Zhao Fu to sit beside him. Zhao Fu sat down and asked, "Now that so much time has passed, what do you think of my medicinal pills, Sir Bellin? Westpan City's battle strength has increased greatly, right? Have there been any gains recently? I've recently obtained a large number of Stage 3 cultivation pills that I can exchange for." "What? A large number of Tier 3 medicinal pills?" Bellin was delighted, but his expression became bitter. Apart from Ceylon spice, some normal resources, and a few slaves, they had nothing good to exchange for. Zhao Fu had wanted to test if Westpan City had anything good, as well as if they were hiding something. However, it seemed that there wasn't anything special, and Zhao Fu was quite disappointed. "Guess. I'm willing to use 3 times the amount of Ceylon spice to exchange for your Stage 3 medicinal pills. Are you willing?" Bellin wanted to use 3 times the amount of Ceylon spice to exchange for the Windbell pills, but Zhao Fu wasn't interested in the spice. Even though he knew that the spice was top grade and was liked by the higher-ups in Qin City, it had been sold to other regions and received great rewards. However, Zhao Fu didn't refuse, nor did he agree. He only said that he would consider it for a while. Hearing this, Bellin felt quite disappointed and decided to report this to the city lord to see what he could offer. After all, a large number of Stage 3 medicinal pills was quite tempting. Of course, there was no need for Zhao Fu to continue trading with Westpan City. After all, when he returned, it would be time to attack Westpan City. After chatting with Bellin for a while, Zhao Fu pretended to leave and used his invisibility ability to do a simple search around Westpan City. After confirming that there weren't any problems, he returned to Qin City. After returning to Qin City, Zhao Fu ordered his people to prepare food. However, he hadn't been back in the real world for a long time, and his body was probably starving. As such, Zhao Fu decided to return to the real world first to fill his stomach. Just as he returned to the real world, he felt a sharp pain in his head. Zhao Fu hurriedly called his bodyguards to prepare food, and he found out that the 4 beauties were at the Ying family. Mu Gillen reported this to Zhao Fu on behalf of the family leader. Because this wasn't a big deal, the family leaders didn't want to disturb Zhao Fu. As such, Mu Gillen told Mu Gillen to wait for Zhao Fu to wake up before telling him about this. Hearing this, Zhao Fu frowned. If he could capture these women in the Heaven Awaken world, Zhao Fu would be interested. After all, Emperor Phoenixes required large amounts of Phoenix Chi. However, no matter how many of them came from the real world, it was useless. After all, the method Zhao Fu had used to bring people into the Heaven Awaken world was to capture them in the Heaven Awaken world and feed them a reality fruit. That way, their bodies in the real world would enter the Heaven Awaken world and fuse with their bodies. Now that he couldn't bring them into the Heaven Awaken world, he couldn't provide them with Phoenix Chi, so they were naturally useless. It seemed that fusing with one's real body was beneficial to one's cultivation. Zhao Fu had heard this from the people who had fused with their real bodies, which were the people that Zhao Fu had captured. Come to think of it, after that battle, Zhao Fu hadn't killed them and had instead kept them. Since their factions had rebelled, they didn't place them in his eyes at all. There was no point in killing them, and keeping them alive might be of some use. As such, even though Zhao Fu kept them, their treatment was quite ordinary. Zhao Fu didn't send people to properly serve them, but the two women who had been made concubines were treated well by Zhao Fu. Acting family leader. How are you going to deal with them? Perhaps you should report this to the legatee. If the legatee sees these four peerless beauties, he'll probably be very happy, Mu Gilin said as he smiled. Hearing this, Zhao Fu couldn't help but laugh. How do you know he'll be very happy? Of course. As a man who wouldn't want to take in all of the beauties in the world. Plus, didn't the legatee give out the holy daughter writs to take in all of the beauties in the world? Now that four of them have delivered themselves to him, the legatee will definitely be very happy, Mu Gilin said confidently. Chapter 488. Hearing this, Mu Gilin felt quite surprised and said, Acting family head, don't you want to see them? Those four are definitely rare beauties in this world, they are hard to come by. Especially the two women called Feng Xiu and Li Muqing. They're both outstanding beauties, and when they came to the Ying family, countless Ying family's disciples couldn't help but go over to take a look. If it wasn't for the fact that they're legatee's women, countless Ying family's disciples would have madly pursued them. By now, the bodyguard had returned with the food and placed it in front of Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu moved the food around as he replied, So what? Even though they're beautiful, they're legatee's women, so they have nothing to do with me. Zhao Fu was completely lying. He was Qin's legatee, so how could this have nothing to do with him? However, Zhao Fu didn't want to waste time on this matter. After eating and filling his stomach, he still had to attack Westpan City, so he didn't have the time to see them. However, Mu Gilin suddenly bowed and said in a low voice, However, acting family head, you're the most important person to legatee. If you're willing, legatee will definitely give them to you. Right now, acting family head, as long as you want them, any woman will throw themselves into your arms. If acting family head wants this, I'll deal with it. Also, I'm only loyal to acting family head. Zhao Fu ate a mouthful of food, and when he heard this, his body froze. He found that this Mu Gilin was here to express his loyalty. That was right. His authority now surpassed that of the Ying family's leaders. As long as legatee Qin didn't say anything, he would be the true family head, and countless factions would try to curry favor with him. After all, he was now legatee Qin's representative in the real world, and all factions had to curry favor with him. Zhao Fu still refused his good intentions and replied, Have them stay in the Ying family for now and serve them well. I'll report this to legatee, so it won't be convenient for me to see them. Mu Gilin was a little disappointed. He thought that he could help Zhao Fu deal with this matter and be put in an important position by Zhao Fu. He didn't expect that Zhao Fu wasn't interested in this. However, after thinking about it, Mu Gilin realized that the relationship between the substitute family leader and Wu Qingyang was not simple at all. Mu Gilin understood what was going on and nodded before leaving. Zhao Fu, on the other hand, ate quickly. When he finished eating, he took a napkin to wipe his mouth. However, there was a lot of noise outside the house. A lot of people must have come outside. This made Zhao Fu frown. Seeing this, the bodyguard standing beside him immediately turned around and went out to check. Not long after, the bodyguard returned and said, Mr. Zhao, there are 4 women outside who want to see you. They should be the 4 beauties. Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt a bit helpless. He picked up a cup of water and nodded. Then let them in. The bodyguard nodded and turned to leave. Not long after, a beautiful girl with delicate features, snow-white skin, a slim figure, and a delicate aura rushed in angrily. But the young woman slammed her palm on the table that Zhao Fu was eating at and yelled, You don't want to see me? Do you know who I am? I'm your legatee's future imperial concubine. Cough, cough, cough. Zhao Fu had been drinking water, and after hearing this he choked. He stopped and looked at the young woman. However, the young woman glared at Zhao Fu and said, You're in trouble. you'd best apologize to me now. Otherwise, in the future, I'll tell my husband, your legatee, and have him properly punish you." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite strange and said, "Since when did you have a relationship with the legatee? Why did you become his imperial concubine?" Feng Xiu crossed her arms and harumphed, "Go back to the heaven-awakened world and tell him that I'll naturally become his woman. Do you think I'll be afraid that the legatee won't like me?" Hearing this, Zhao Fu looked at Feng Xiu and found that she was incredibly beautiful. Whether it was in terms of temperament or looks, she was flawless, and she was one of the few beauties that Zhao Fu had seen. However, it seemed that everyone around Zhao Fu was quite good-looking. Facing Zhao Fu's gaze, Feng Xiu felt quite pleased. However, she thought about it and wrinkled her nose before looking quite ferocious. She stretched out a snow-white finger and pointed at Zhao Fu as she said, "It's best if you don't have any improper thoughts about me. I'm your legatee's woman, and I definitely won't like you. Look at your skinny arms and legs." Zhao Fu looked away, not knowing what to say. At that moment, the 3 other women walked in. They were all incredibly beautiful, and anyone who looked at them would be mesmerized. The first woman looked to be in her early 20s, and had a slim figure. However, she gave off a scholarly aura, and what surprised Zhao Fu was that she was wearing an ancient dress. The second woman looked to be around 23 or 24 years old, and had jade-like skin. She had a graceful figure and gave off a gentle aura. Her fingers were quite slim, and she seemed quite skilled at playing musical instruments. The third woman looked to be around 20 years old, and had a voluptuous figure. She had some baby fat and snow-white skin, and she looked quite obedient. However, she made people want to possess her. From their auras, Zhao Fu could guess their names. The first was most likely Li Muqing, because he gave off a scholarly aura. The second was most likely Rowena, because she was skilled at playing musical instruments. The last was most likely Pan Yuling, because she gave off an alluring scent. Seeing that the others had come in, Feng Xiu lightly harumphed, and returned to her normal appearance, as she sat on a sofa. Zhao Fu looked at the 4 women in front of him and asked, "What is it? If it's for Prince Qin's sake, I'll inform him." Rowena and Pan Yuling lightly shook their heads, indicating that there was nothing else. They had come to inform Prince Qin so that their families could receive Prince Qin's acknowledgement. However, they and Feng Xiu were happy to accept it, as Li Muqing had come willingly. They had all been forcefully sent here by their families, and their fates had already been decided. They could not feel happy about this decision, and they looked slightly sad. Li Muqing slightly smiled and said, "Mr. Zhao, shouldn't you ask my daughter to sit down first?" Hearing this, Zhao Fu quickly came back to his senses. He had been in a high position for too long and did not remember such common sense. After asking Li Muqing and Rowena to sit on a sofa, Zhao Fu looked at Li Muqing to see what she had to say. Chapter 489. Zhao Fu did not like these scholars. He felt that they were too scholarly and were not suitable for survival. After all, this was the Warring States period, and they could not display much combat power. However, these scholars could not afford to offend them. For example, Qin Shi Huang had burned books and buried Confucians. In order to unify ideas, he had burned some books, but he had never burned books on medicine, agriculture, or other practical technique. Burying Confucians was only caused by necromancers. During the Qin dynasty, the old Confucians wanted to imitate the Zhou dynasty and enfeoff the world. However, enfeoffment was the main cause of the Warring States period, so how could Qin Shi Huang agree? Later on, necromancers coveted a large amount of wealth and slandered Qin Shi Huang, forcing Qin Shi Huang to burn Confucians. Most of the necromancers were killed, and only a small portion of Confucians were implicated. Even so, the number of people killed was only 400 or so. Even though it was only 400 or so, it was not a big deal. For example, when Zhu Yuanzhang established the Ming dynasty, He massacred tens of cities and killed hundreds of thousands of people to consolidate his rule. However, not many people thought that he was a tyrant. Many wise emperors were injured and stained with blood, but they were still wise emperors. Qin Shi Huang had only done a small thing, but he was still remembered. This was because the people Qin Shi Huang had offended were scholars. They were the most important people in spreading ideas, and many books were left behind or written by them. If they wanted to scold you, no matter what you did, you would go down in history. Those who did not understand would definitely think that Qin Shi Huang had burned all books and buried all Confucians. That was why these scholars could not be easily offended. Every dynasty valued these scholars and supported them. However, it was not good to have too many scholars. For example, in the Song dynasty, there were many scholars and their living standards were the highest in China's history. However, it was the dynasty that had suffered the most humiliation in China's history. The Qing dynasty had only ceded land and paid compensation, but the Song dynasty's emperor's princess and concubines had all been taken as slaves and killed. It could be said that it was the most humiliating dynasty in China. As such, what was the point of having so many scholars? What was the point of having high living standards? What was the point of having the most developed economy? However, your military strength is the weakest, so you suffer more humiliation, because in this world, strength speaks, not mouth speak. Due to these reasons, Zhao Fu cared a little about Li Muqing. Of course, Zhao Fu did not hate these literati. After all, they were the carriers and disseminators of ideology and culture. I want to see Prince Qin in person. Can you help me? Li Muqing sat on the sofa and said to Zhao Fu with a smile. Hearing this, Zhao Fu thought for a moment before replying, "That's impossible. Right now, the legatee rarely meets people. If you have something to say, I can pass on the message. Also, why do you want to see the legatee?" Li Muqing lightly leaned against the sofa and lightly nodded before saying, "In actuality, it's nothing much. I just want to see what kind of person he is. Don't misunderstand, I don't want to become his concubine. I just want to see if he can establish a powerful kingdom and protect literature and poetry. As such, I want to come to the state of Qin to take a look." Zhao Fu knew that things wouldn't be so simple, so he replied, "That's for sure. Culture is the core of a nation, and the legatee will definitely protect it." Hearing this, Li Muqing happily smiled and said, "All right, I don't have much to do right now. I don't have anything to do right now, so I'll continue to stay in the Ying family. If Great Emperor has any questions, I'll be happy to help." Zhao Fu nodded, indicating that he understood. Following this, Li Muqing, Lu Rian, and Pan Yuling left. Finally, Feng Xiu glared at Zhao Fu and said, "Remember to tell your legatee that I've come to the Ying family and that he needs to acknowledge me as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson." After saying this, Feng Xiu swung her little fists, looking like she was going to beat up Zhao Fu before leaving. Zhao Fu dryly laughed and did not pay much mind to this, and he returned to the heaven-awakened world. By the time Zhao Fu returned to the state of Qin, all of the generals and soldiers had already gathered, and Qin officially set off towards Westpan City. A few hours later, Zhao Fu led his army to the outskirts of Westpan City. Looking at Westpan City, Zhao Fu did not use any schemes and instead ordered his army to charge. They would first destroy the villages outside the city before surrounding Westpan City. Because Zhao Fu's strength was enough to completely suppress the enemy, scheming would be quite troublesome. As such, Zhao Fu decided to use brute force to conquer. The 400,000 Qin soldiers were like a massive black tide that surged forwards, seeming to want to devour everything. Of course, the ones at the front were the cavalrymen. Suddenly, the kobold villagers who had been attacked looked quite confused. They had lived in peace for a long time, and with their strength, even system main cities did not dare to attack them. They had never thought that someone would dare to attack them. The countless Qin cavalrymen did not care about these people. They only had one thing in mind, which was to kill anyone who resisted. They held spears and rode on their war horses as they charged forwards with unstoppable momentum, piercing through the kobold villagers' chests with their spears. Immediately, blood flew everywhere as howls sounded out, and countless kobold villagers died. The kobold villagers immediately resisted. After all, they were outlanders, and their battle instincts were incredibly wild. The kobold villagers held spears, sabers, and clubs as they ferociously faced off against the Qin cavalrymen. However, the outcome was tragic. Firstly, they were just villagers and not soldiers. Secondly, their cultivation and equipment were far inferior to Qin soldiers. What was more important was their numbers. There were only a few thousand of them, but they had to face hundreds of thousands of Qin soldiers. No matter how ferocious the kobold villagers were, they were incredibly weak in front of the Qin soldiers. They desperately threw out spears, but they found that they were all knocked away by the Qin soldiers, and they were unable to deal much damage. What's more, the kobold villagers were quickly inundated by the black tide, and everything returned to normal, leaving behind corpses lying on the ground. However, even though the kobold villagers had resisted quite quickly, they had also surrendered quite quickly. After all, they revered strength above all else, and after hearing that they would not kill those who surrendered, many of the kobold villagers obediently knelt on the ground and chose to surrender. After dealing with the villagers, Great Qin's soldiers tightly surrounded Westpan City. Chapter 490. The person standing on the city walls was a tall and muscular kobold, and he was most likely Westpan City's city lord, Westpan. Westpan looked at the countless Qin city soldiers with a serious expression. He had never thought that someone would attack Westpan City, and there were at least 400,000 enemies below. Just what was going on? Why had such a large number of enemies appeared? Could it be that they were all otherworlders? However, from their auras and appearances, Westpan could tell that they weren't otherworlders. However, if they were system factions, they wouldn't have so many people. After all, the three system main cities only had 300,000 soldiers, so how could there be 400,000 of them? Moreover, after staying in this region for so long, Westpan hadn't caused any trouble, so there was no need for the system main cities to expend so much manpower and resources to attack Westpan City. After all, if they wanted to attack, they would have done so long ago. Just what faction did the enemies below belong to? Westpan couldn't understand at all, and he couldn't figure out what faction the enemies below were from or why they were attacking Westpan City. The dense mass of Qin city soldiers slowly parted, and Zhao Fu rode out on his black forest horse, leading a group of generals and generals. Westpan didn't recognize Zhao Fu and the others, but when Bellin saw Zhao Fu, his expression fell. He recognized Zhao Fu because Zhao Fu was the person who had traded with him and had helped him become rich. How could he not recognize him? But didn't he say that he would consider exchanging for items? Why did he bring so many people to attack Westpan City? Moreover, he seemed to be the leader of a faction, which Bellin hadn't expected. After all, Zhao Fu had been incredibly respectful and courteous to him, but after thinking about it, Bellin realized that he had been tricked by this person. Westpan sensed Bellin's change, and his gaze became cold as he said, "Bellin, do you know him? Do you know him? Tell me what's going on." Bellin didn't dare to hide anything, and he hurriedly told Westpan everything that had happened from the beginning of the trade to now. After listening to everything, Westpan felt quite strange. Since the other side had wanted to attack Westpan, why had they traded with Westpan City and provided a large amount of equipment and medicinal pills to increase Westpan City's strength? Evidently, they weren't idiots. Could it be that there's something wrong with the pills and equipment? However, Westpan had also inspected the medicinal pills and equipment, and they were all very good equipment. There was nothing wrong with them, so what was their goal? Perhaps the other party wanted to use large amounts of benefits to subdue West Pan City? Zhao Fu looked at the city walls and a trace of a smile appeared on his face as he said, I advise you to surrender. I'll treat you well, and resisting will only result in death. Don't even think about reaching 400,000 soldiers, that's simply impossible. Hearing this, West Pan's expression became grim because he found that it would indeed be very difficult to defend against 400,000 soldiers. Moreover, the person talking to him seemed to be the city lord of a basic city. Now that West Pan City was at a disadvantage, it was possible that they would lose. However, it was impossible for him to admit defeat so easily. Sir, I won't surrender like this. Instead, we can become allies. In the future, I'll give you everything we exchange at half price. How about it? West Pan understood that they would most likely lose, so he decided to form an alliance to resolve this matter peacefully. He would sacrifice a large portion of his profits to resolve this matter peacefully. Hearing West Pan's words, Zhao Fu couldn't help but laugh. Who would want his items? Zhao Fu was only interested in West Pan City and its large population. That won't do. I just want West Pan City. You can only choose two paths. Submit or die, Zhao Fu said with great confidence, and his tone was incredibly domineering. West Pan felt quite furious. He had already taken a step back, and his tone had become weaker, but this person was still acting so domineeringly, not putting West Pan City in his eyes at all. It was as if West Pan City was afraid of him. You can try then. Don't think that West Pan City is weak, West Pan said angrily, his tone becoming filled with enmity. Ha ha ha! Zhao Fu looked at West Pan and loudly laughed before giving the order, begin the attack. After giving the order, all of Qin City's soldiers became serious, and their auras became incredibly oppressive, causing the countless kobold soldiers on the city walls to feel quite shocked. First, next to Zhao Fu, 6 figures exploded out with powerful auras and rushed into the sky. That terrifying power caused the weather to change, shaking the entire region and startling all creatures. Sensing this sudden explosion of auras, the 3 system main cities' city lords' expressions fell, and they quickly left their system main cities and turned into rays of light as they flew towards West Pan City. They were all incredibly shocked. Just what had happened at West Pan City? Back at West Pan City, the countless kobolds stared at the 6 powerful figures in the sky in shock. They were actually 6 terrifying city lords, and 5 of them were system main cities, while 1 was a basic city. How could they not be shocked to see 6 city lords gathered together? After all, city lords weren't as common as carrots, and a region could only have 4 city lords. However, the other side had 6 city lords, and that didn't include the leaders of the factions. This made West Pan feel incredibly shocked. Swish, swish, swish as the kobolds stared in shock. Countless ballista bolts with hidden evil roots attached to them tore through the sky and flew towards West Pan City. The kobolds quickly reacted, and facing the countless ballista bolts, they raised their shields to defend while those without shields immediately hid. However, the ballista bolts' target wasn't them, as the hidden evil roots had already been ignited and gave off dense white smoke. Even though the countless ballista bolts didn't cause many casualties, the white smoke still slowly spread out. West Pan immediately felt that there was something off about the white smoke, and he wanted to dispel it. However, before he could do anything, the 6 people in the sky started to attack, forcing West Pan to dodge. Within the large amount of white smoke, the kobold soldiers breathed in some of the white smoke and felt their bodies become incredibly weak. Beads of sweat continuously flowed down their bodies as they collapsed against the town walls. West Pan City now had 60,000 soldiers, and because they had consumed medicinal pills with hidden evil, they instantly fell to the ground and lost all ability to fight. Chapter 491. because these 100,000 or so kobolds hadn't taken any medicinal pills that contained hidden evil, they were immune to the white smoke, and they were now the main force defending the city. Zhao Fu once again yelled, "Westpan, I'll give you one more chance. I'll give you one more chance. Do you choose to surrender? If you don't, I'll kill you." Right now, Westpan was completely suppressed by the sixth city lord. If it wasn't for the fact that he was constantly dodging and using the residents to cover him, he would have long since died. However, part of the reason why Bai Qi and the others hadn't killed him yet was because they hadn't used all of their strength yet. After all, it was 6 against 1, and 5 of them were city lords of system main cities. Westpan was only the city lord of a basic city, so he had no chance of winning. The city lords of the other 3 system main cities could only watch from afar. Because Qin was simply too powerful, they didn't dare to rashly get involved. Moreover, Westpan City was just an outlander city and had nothing to do with the human race, so they wouldn't interfere. However, Westpan still refused to surrender, and he looked like he wanted to run away with the city creation stone. "Hurry! Cover me!" Westpan yelled, causing the countless residents to shoot arrows at Bai Qi and the others while Westpan quickly flew towards the city hall. Westpan wasn't stupid, and he knew that he couldn't defeat the 6 of them. Now that 60,000 soldiers had fallen ill, it seemed that there was something wrong with the medicinal pills. However, with only 100,000 or so residents remaining, they wouldn't be able to defend at all. After all, these residents didn't have any professions, and their cultivations weren't very high. How could they defend against an army of 400,000 soldiers? Westpan knew that he would lose, so he decided to run away with the city creation stone. With the city creation stone, he would still have a chance. If they surrendered, they would be living under someone else's roof and would have to listen to someone else's orders. If someone else wanted to kill them, they wouldn't be able to resist, and they wouldn't be able to enjoy the power that they currently had. As such, most people wouldn't choose to surrender unless they had no other choice. The countless residents obeyed Westpan's orders and shot a massive wave of arrows at Bai Qi and the others. Even Bai Qi and the others couldn't ignore so many arrows. They used their city lord Seal's power to form a formless barrier that blocked all of the incoming arrows. However, because there were simply too many arrows, they became much slower. Although Bai Qi's group of 6 was slowed down by the hundreds of thousands of residents, Westpan City wasn't the only city with archers. Qin City also had archers, and their numbers, scale, and strength far surpassed that of the kobolds. Swish, 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 with the sound of something breaking through the air, Qin began to launch a counterattack. Wave after wave of arrows shot towards the city wall. The huge and sharp arrows made people's hair stand on end, and their bodies could not help but tremble instinctively. The kobolds were instantly suppressed by Qin, and the 6 city lords caught up with Westpan in a moment. Zhao Fu did not hold back and said, "Kill him!" Hearing Zhao Fu's order, the 6 of them exploded out with even greater power and their expressions became serious. They used all of their power and became serious. Bai Qi gripped the 7 kills sword, causing it to hum and give off a terrifying aura of slaughter. A brilliant blood-red light flickered on the sword. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Bai Qi slashed out, sending out a massive blood-red sword light, bringing with it a blood-red sword wind that seemed to be able to destroy everything as it slashed towards Westpan. Westpan was given a big fright, and he could only change directions and dodge to the side. The terrifying blood-colored sword light swept across the ground, instantly destroying countless houses and leaving a terrifying sword mark that was 100 meters wide on the ground. Even though Westpan had dodged this attack, he had changed directions and was heading towards the city hall. He wanted to continue flying towards the city hall because he had seen how terrifying Bai Qi was by himself, and he was even more determined to escape. However, how could Great Qin allow him to escape? Wei Liao also made his move. He raised the greedy wolf sword, which was glowing with a green light, and countless strands of green aura gathered towards him. A 10-meter-long wolf gave off a terrifying aura and ferociously charged towards Westpan like a bolt of lightning. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as Westpan had been careless and was hit by the wolf. The terrifying impact caused Westpan's body to fly backwards and crash into the ground, creating a 10-meter-wide crater. Arg! There was a trace of blood at the corner of Westpan's mouth, as he furiously roared and exploded out with a terrifying power. After being suppressed for so long, Westpan was enraged, and he exploded out with all of his power. A blood-red aura flame rose up as Westpan held a spear and vigorously swung it. Ferocious dogs appeared out of nowhere, numbering in the thousands. They were about 2 meters long and howled as they rushed towards the 6 people in the sky. Facing the ferocious dogs, Bai Qi and the others' expressions did not change at all, and they unleashed their most powerful attacks. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as saber lights, sword images, and spear lights filled the sky as they shot towards Westpan, bringing with them dazzling destructive power. The incoming ferocious dogs were instantly shredded into countless pieces, while the saber lights and sword images continued to attack Westpan. Westpan blocked with all of his strength, but he was still easily sent flying. He crashed through 10 or so buildings before stopping, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. On the other side, Zhao Fu ordered the 300 ghost illusionists and 300 ghost summoners to go to the other side of the city wall. Zhao Fu's side would attract a large number of people, and Zhao Fu's side was not in a hurry to attack the city. As such, they only shot out a large number of arrows to suppress and attract more people. The 300 ghost illusionists came to the other side of the city wall and raised their wooden staffs as they chanted. Traces of ghostly qi spread out from the ground and covered this side of the city wall. There were not many people defending this side, as most of the people had been attracted by Zhao Fu's side. Adding on the fact that these residents' cultivations were not very high, they were quickly dragged into the dark ghost world and had to endure the attacks of countless ghosts. The ghost summoners pressed their hands against the ground, summoning evil ghosts. They obeyed their orders and quickly ran towards the city wall. Their sharp claws could easily tear through rocks, and the 300 evil ghosts easily rushed up the city wall and started a massacre. Mournful cries sounded out within the area filled with ghostly qi, making it so that no one dared to take a single step forward. Zhao Fu's soldiers stealthily moved towards the 100 ghost illusionists' side and started to attack the city wall. The soldiers carried ladders and hooks, and as soon as the ghostly qi released by the 100 ghost illusionists dissipated, they would immediately be able to reach the city wall. Chapter 492. Not long after, Qin's soldiers had already taken control of this side of the city wall. Could be said that it was very easy. In fact, if Zhao Fu had brought the wyverns and 150,000 skeletons, it should have been easy to settle. Now that this side of the city wall had been taken over, the city gates were opened, and most of the soldiers started to rush over. The kobolds knew that the other side of the city wall had been broken through, but they were unable to provide any reinforcements. It was already incredibly difficult for them to defend against Zhao Fu's attacks, so how could they have the strength to help the other side? On the other side, Westpan City's soldiers immediately controlled the elderly and women before attacking the other 3 walls. Westpan City's defeat was already decided. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as Westpan's body was sent flying by Meng Tian's spear. No matter how strong Westpan was, he was only the city lord of a basic city. In actuality, any city lord of a system main city would be able to take him down, even though it would be slightly difficult. However, Qin's side had 6 city lords, and they were on completely different levels. After being sent flying, Westpan crashed onto the ground and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. His body was covered in wounds, while the 6 of them were completely uninjured. Even their clothes were pure white without a speck of dust on them. The outcome was already decided, and in order to prevent anything unexpected from happening, Zhao Fu stood in the air. Zhao Fu had long since discovered the 3 city lords hiding in the distance, and he mainly wanted to prevent them from interfering. Right now, Qin was only here to destroy Westpan City, and these 3 city lords weren't his targets. If they dared to come close and interfere, Zhao Fu wouldn't mind attacking them. However, they were standing so far away, and if Zhao Fu went over, they would most likely run away. Ah! Westpan was already heavily injured, and he gave a heaven-shaking roar as he exploded out with the last bit of his strength. His muscles bulged, and he gripped his spear as he stared at Zhao Fu. He made a spear-throwing motion, wanting to throw the spear towards Zhao Fu to kill him. Pooh! The sound of a weapon piercing a body rang out as Bai Qi appeared behind Westpan. His face was cold as he stabbed out with the 7 murders sword, piercing through Westpan's chest. Blood slowly flowed out from the corner of Westpan's mouth as he struggled to hold onto his spear, wanting to deal the final blow to Bai Qi. However, Bai Qi wouldn't give him this opportunity. The 7 murders sword slashed out, sending out a blood-red sword light that completely destroyed Westpan's internal organs. Westpan's eyes gradually dimmed, and he lost all signs of life as he powerlessly fell to the ground. After Westpan died, an iron-black city lord seal that gave off a faint light floated out of his body. Zhao Fu was quite surprised by this. He had thought that Westpan would surrender, but he hadn't expected that Westpan would choose to fight to the death in the face of such a crushing situation. However, with Westpan's death, Westpan City lost its ability to resist. Right now, the only ones resisting were the commoners, and there were almost no soldiers. Westpan was their only hope, and with his death, everyone's hope was gone. Of course, there were still a small number of people who were loyal to Westpan City and wanted to resist. However, when they rushed up and fought with Qin's soldiers, they were shocked to find that their weapons had shattered, and they were killed by Qin's soldiers. As such, facing the enemies who had already entered the city, many of the kobold residents who had already died started to surrender, allowing Qin's soldiers to easily take control of Westpan City. Seeing this scene, the 3 city lords in the distance chose to leave in case they attracted trouble. Now it was time to clean up the battlefield. Zhao Fu first gathered all of the captives, including the kobold residents who had surrendered and the kobold soldiers who had fainted, while the other soldiers looted everything of value. Bai Qi walked over and handed the iron-black city lord seal to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu smiled and played with the city lord seal in his hand, feeling how powerful it was. Qin City had obtained another city lord seal, and it fulfilled another requirement to level up to a great city. Holding the city lord seal, Zhao Fu went to Westpan City's system main hall and chose to conquer and relocate Westpan City. System announcement. Congratulations, you have conquered Westpan City and obtained 1,000 achievement points. System announcement. Because you are the legatee of a nation, you have obtained a large amount of fate from conquering Westpan City. System announcement. Congratulations, you have relocated Westpan City and obtained 340,000 EXP. System announcement. You have obtained 100 war points. Another string of system announcements sounded out, and because they were all the same, Zhao Fu didn't pay too much attention to them. The surrounding buildings started to collapse, and the light from the city heart became dimmer and dimmer as it degenerated into a city creation stone. Finally, a golden city creation stone floated into Zhao Fu's hand, and Zhao Fu grabbed it and put it away. After coming outside, the countless surrendered kobold residents had been gathered together, and the unconscious kobold soldiers had been woken up. At the same time, their bodies were bound by ropes, making it impossible for them to break free. When Zhao Fu and his people arrived, the countless kobold people knelt on the ground in fear. Zhao Fu looked over and saw that Belen was among them. Sensing Zhao Fu's gaze, Belen thought back to what had happened before, and he had acted so noble in front of Zhao Fu, not putting him in his eyes at all. He had never thought that Zhao Fu's status was thousands of times higher than his, and yet he had dared to act so arrogantly in front of him. This was like a mouse trying to intimidate a lion, and it was very likely that he would be skinned alive. This scared Belen so much that he pressed his head against the ground, and his body trembled. He was afraid that Zhao Fu would kill him, and he couldn't help but yell, "Sir, this lowly one didn't mean to offend you before. Please forgive me." Zhao Fu lightly laughed and ignored him. He walked to the front of the group of captives and said, "West Pan City has already lost. The Kobold people who have submitted to Qin can enjoy the same treatment as Qin's residents. If you don't surrender, I can only kill you. Don't think that I'll let you off." These words were mainly said to the soldiers who had just woken up. As for the Kobold residents, they all chose to surrender. "Sir, we're willing to surrender and become Qin's residents. Please don't kill us, sir. As long as you tell me to, I'll do anything. I'm willing to offer my body to you. You despicable bastard, you killed the city lord. I'll definitely kill you to take revenge for the city lord." As soon as Zhao Fu finished speaking, countless voices sounded out from below. Some people surrendered, while others cursed. Chapter 493. In the end, Zhao Fu obtained 160,000 Kobold residents and 40,000 Kobold soldiers, which added up to 200,000 Qin cities' total population to 2.5 million. This was especially so for the 40,000 Kobold soldiers, who all had Stage 1 cultivation. Without Zhao Fu nurturing them, he would be able to create another 40,000 Stage 1 soldiers. Apart from population, Zhao Fu also obtained many other materials and coins, and he once again collected equipment from West Pan City. These were the equipment that he had obtained from trading with West Pan City with Shattersteel iron. After all, Qin Zhao Fu wouldn't do anything that would cause him to lose money, so he had to pay back double. "Your Majesty, this person knows the core recipe for Ceylon spice. I've brought him here," a general respectfully reported. "Ceylon spice?" Zhao Fu was quite interested and nodded, asking the general to bring him here. "This lowly one pays his respects to Lord." Belen walked forward submissively and bowed respectfully. Zhao Fu was quite surprised to find that it was Belen again. Zhao Fu didn't think much of Belen, he was quite capable. "Tell me the recipe for Ceylon spice," Zhao Fu directly asked. Ceylon spice was a very expensive spice, and if he could sell it in large quantities, it would be very profitable. Belen lowered his head and obediently told Zhao Fu about the recipe for Ceylon spice and how he had discovered it. Kobolds were naturally sensitive to all kinds of smells, and it was the same for fragrances. According to Belen, this Ceylon spice was made by an old kobold, but that old kobold had long since died. Ceylon spice was mainly used to make incense. After being lit, it would give off a unique and elegant fragrance. This fragrance could not only repel mosquitoes and insects, but it could also raise one's spirit. It seemed that it would also be beneficial to one's cultivation. However, the method to create Ceylon spice was quite complicated, and it required 20 or so types of orchids and a relatively rare type of Ceylon incense wood. Qin had the flower's blessing and powerful city stats, so he didn't have to worry about the orchids. Zhao Fu also went to take a look at the Ceylon incense wood. It was a type of tree that was 5 or 6 meters tall and had a pink trunk but dark green leaves, making it look quite strange. West Pan City didn't have many Ceylon trees, so they couldn't mass-produce Ceylon incense. Zhao Fu dug up all the tin incense wood and decided not to make Ceylon incense for the time being. He planned to cultivate a large amount of tin incense wood first before mass-producing it. After taking care of these matters, Zhao Fu took his people back to Great Qin and rebuilt Westpan City. He also took care of the kobolds. Then, Zhao Fu set the Shipon seal as a subsidiary seal. The black iron-colored Shipon seal became smaller, and part of its core power was deprived by Qin Ling. Zhao Fu casually threw the Zimpan seal to Doke, who had been waiting for a long time, and gave him a rank 3 blood god pill to increase his cultivation. Doke excitedly and happily received the things that Zhao Fu had given him. He quickly knelt on the ground and said, "Thank you, Your Highness, for your reward." Zhao Fu lightly nodded and had him get up. Doke was one of the earliest kobolds who had followed Qin City. Even though he had only been a small village chief, under Qin's nurturing, he had become a powerful figure. He had no flaws in terms of cultivation or talent, so giving him the Zimpan seal was perfect. Because they had just conquered Westpan City, Zhao Fu didn't rush to attack the second target. Instead, he had his soldiers rest and reorganize themselves so that they were in their best condition. Soon it was the next day. A muffled explosion sounded out within Zhao Fu's room as a formless might spread out. Zhao Fu's grave expression immediately relaxed. Zhao Fu now had stage 3 cultivation. Heaven-grade cultivation was incredibly fast, and Zhao Fu's cultivation had already surpassed Bai Qi's. Back then, Zhao Fu's cultivation had been much lower than Bai Qi's, but he had been able to surpass him in such a short period of time. This was mainly because of his heaven grade. After breaking through to stage 3 cultivation, Zhao Fu felt that his power had become much stronger. It wasn't just his power, but his bloodline and body had also become much stronger. Zhao Fu walked out of his room and stretched his limbs. The weather was quite cold, and even though it was noon and the sun was high in the sky, there wasn't much heat. "Your Highness, the team in Gloomy Jungle has returned, and they have a large number of legacy shards," a soldier respectfully reported. Those shards were the Silver Lake Immortal Legacy Shards. Gloomy Jungle could provide many stage 1 and above corpses, and Qin had continuously collected these shards. Each of these shards required 1,200 shards to fuse into a Silver Lake Immortal Legacy equipment. Zhao Fu had already fused a Silver Lake Immortal Sword. The Silver Lake Immortal Sword was a legendary grade piece of equipment and had martial conception power. The sword's power was incredibly great, but it was not easy to wield. As such, Zhao Fu had not found a suitable person to wield it yet. As such, the Silver Lake Immortal Sword had remained within Zhao Fu's spatial ring. There were 7 pieces of Silver Lake Immortal Legacy equipment, and after Zhao Fu fused them into a sword, the goblins wouldn't drop any more sword essences, so there were only 7 pieces of Silver Lake Immortal Legacy equipment. Zhao Fu had been collecting these shards this entire time, and after such a long time, Zhao Fu had obtained quite a few. Adding on the newly obtained shards, it shouldn't be a problem for him to fuse the remaining 6 pieces of Silver Lake Immortal Legacy equipment. Zhao Fu first went to an empty area and took out the saber essences. These saber essences gave off a sharp white light and were shaped like sabers, and they were as long as a finger. Zhao Fu didn't need to do anything. As soon as he took out the saber essences, they resonated with each other. Just like when he had fused with the Silver Lake Immortal Sword, countless saber essences flew into the sky, and a massive wave of saber chi spread out, shattering all of the clouds. The saber essences turned into resplendent motes of light, looking as beautiful as the stars in the sky. A beautiful and calm image of a lake, giving off boundless concept energy, gradually appeared. Finally, the countless saber essences fused together, forming a silver saber that gave off a bright silver light and slowly descended from the sky. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and caught it before looking at it. This silver saber was 1 meter long, and it was longer than most sabers. It was 3 fingers wide, and there were patterns on it. The hilt was also very long, and it could be held with both hands. Overall, the saber looked quite exquisite. After fusing with the Silver Lake Immortal Sword, Zhao Fu took out another spear essence. This spear essence looked like a small spear that was also as long as a finger, and it gave off a piercing aura. Zhao Fu once again took out 1,200 spear essences, and they resonated with each other as they flew into the sky, turning into resplendent stars. Following this, the image of a lake appeared, and the countless spear essences fused into a silver spear that slowly descended from the sky. Zhao Fu caught the spear and looked at it again. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.